Chapter 1588. Patriarch Xianqiu, are you going to move aside or not? Sima Yue asked. Xianqiu Fushi was thinking about Sima Yue's words and weighing the pros and cons. After a moment of silence, he said, Niece, we said before that the godly medicine can only be given to the family members. Now that you've taken the divine medicine, if you marry we won't pursue what happened today. Sima Yue sneered. I've already said that I won't pursue this matter for the sake of big brother he. I didn't ask you to pretend to be good people. You want me to join a treacherous family? You're dreaming. Niece, although you have a certain relationship with the gods, you are not one of them. Even if I destroy you again, no one will know. Our conditions are already the greatest concession we can make, Xianqiu Fushi threatened. Patriarch Xianqiu, there's something that you might not know. Before coming here, I went to the god race. They know that I will come here. If I disappear now, will they let you go? Even if you say that something happened to me after I left, they still won't believe you. Besides, I didn't say that I was the only one from the god race. After saying that, she injected spiritual energy into the small door, and the little Black Lotus realm opened. Feng Xiang led the Feng people out of the little Black Lotus realm and stood behind Sima Yue. Xianqiu Fushi, how dare you? You even dare to kill the young miss of the Feng people. Feng Xiang shouted. Xianqiu Fushi naturally knew Feng Xiang. When he interacted with the Feng people in the past, he always interacted with Feng Xiang. He naturally knew her position among the Feng people. She did not expect Sima Yue to bring along the phoenix fragrance. Xianqiu he also knew about the Feng people. When he saw the Feng people, his feelings were complicated. On one hand, Sima Yue would definitely be able to leave safely today. On the other hand, the fact that she brought people from the Feng people here meant that she never trusted the Xianqiu clan and him. Big brother Crane, it's not a matter of whether I believe you or not. I'm used to being cautious. Sima Yue saw the hurt in his eyes and said, if I didn't believe you, I wouldn't have waited until now. But I've disappointed you, Xianqiu he smiled bitterly. He really didn't think that the people in his clan would be like this. No, you didn't disappoint me. On the contrary, I'm very happy that you've let me know that I didn't recognize the wrong person. Sima Yue could not help but comfort him when she saw his gaze. Young miss, should we directly exterminate them? Feng Xiang asked. Sima Yue shifted her gaze away from Xianqiu he and looked at the people guarding outside. She sighed and said, if they are willing to let us go, then let's forget about it this time. Miss, are we just going to let it go? Feng Xiang looked at Sima Yue in surprise. From what she knew, Yue was not the kind of person who would let it go after being bullied. This time she was actually going to let it go without doing anything? Sima Yue did not answer her. Instead, she looked at Xianqiu Fushi and asked, Clan leader Xianqiu, what do you say? What should he say? What else could he say? He had never been so useless in his life. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of Xianqiu Fushi. The moment he appeared, everyone in the Xianqiu clan bowed to him and respectfully called him Old Ancestor. The Old Ancestor of the Xianqiu clan glanced at Xianqiu Fushi. He felt as if his body was frozen. Old Ancestor. Xianqiu Fushi knew that the Old Ancestor was angry. You've completely disgraced the Xianqiu clan. Since you've even forgotten about etiquette, I think we should choose a new clan leader. The Old Ancestor scolded. Old Ancestor, please calm down. Everyone in the Xianqiu clan knelt down. They were all frightened by him. Old Ancestor Xianqiu ignored them. He cupped his hands towards Sima Yue and said, Yue, my Xianqiu clan is in the wrong. Please don't be angry. The divine medicine is what you deserve. Also, we will give you a gift as an apology. Sima Yue pursed her lips. He scolded Xianqiu Fushi the moment he arrived and then apologized to her. It was obvious that he did not want her to pursue the matter. Although he said that he was apologizing, he did not have much sincerity. She was too lazy to talk nonsense with them. Other than Xianqiu she did not want to care about anyone else in the Xianqiu clan. So you're saying that you won't pursue the matter today? Can we leave now? As long as you don't pursue the matter. Old Ancestor Xianqiu said. And Xiang, let's go. Sima Yue did not want to stay here at all. Wait. Old Ancestor Xianqiu called out to her, you've been tired for the whole night. Why don't you go back and rest first? You can leave after we prepare some gifts. How about that? Forget about the apology. Sima Yue said, you don't have to prepare those things. We can't be friends anymore. I'll feel uncomfortable if I take them. Yue, look, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. You and he are our friends. We've already admitted our mistake. Can't we just let it go? No. Sima Yue rejected their good intentions. I won't pursue the matter today, but it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. If not for Aunt Xiang and the rest, I'm afraid that today would have a different ending. I'm already letting you go because of Big Brother He. Don't ask for too much. Aunt Xiang, let's go. If she accepted their gifts today, it meant that she would not pursue the matter and the two clans would still be friends. Unfortunately, she did not have such a good heart. Old ancestor Shen Xiu looked at Shen Xiu He, hoping that he would say something. Shen Xiu He lowered his head and ignored him. Feng Xiang directly tore open the space and left with Sima Yue and the rest, leaving the Shen Xiu clan to face the ruins. Old ancestor Shen Xiu wanted to stop them, but seeing that Feng Xiang directly tore open their space, he could only stare blankly as they left. This was the space opened by the ancestors of the Shen Xiu clan. It was different from the outside world. He did not expect her to tear it open just like that. The God clan was indeed powerful. The morning sun shone down. It was a scene of hope, but the Shen Xiu clan felt that they had fallen into an ice cellar. Old ancestor. Finally, someone could not stand the strange silence and shouted. Old ancestor Shen Xiu turned around and looked at the people kneeling on the ground. He said emotionlessly, "Open the ancestral hall. Bring Shen Xiu Fushi over." The ancestral hall enshrined the ancestral tablets. Some of the ancestors even left a trace of their consciousness inside. If there were no major matters, the ancestral hall would not be opened. Now that the ancestral hall was opened, everyone panicked when they thought about what he said about changing the head of the clan. The head of the clan was not dead and he wanted to depose the head of the clan. This was something that had never happened before. Old ancestor, the head of the clan is doing this for the benefit of the clan. Please reconsider. Old ancestor, please reconsider. For the benefit of the clan? If he is doing this for the benefit of the clan, he should not go against Sima Yue. Bring him away. Old ancestor Shen Xiu ordered. A few guards appeared out of thin air and brought Shen Xiu Fushi to the ancestral hall. Chapter 1589. Sima Yue was the contracted master of the vermilion bird. She had the right to command all the birds, not to mention that she had so many forces behind her. If Shen Xiu Fushi was truly thinking for his family, he should not have offended her. It wasn't that such a thing hadn't happened before, but the other party was just someone who could be easily manipulated. It was fine if they went back on their word. Was it the same for Sima Yue? He didn't even use his brain. Short-sighted. And now it was too late to say anything. Sima Yue did not care about what happened to the Shen Xiu family. The Shen Xiu clan would probably not interact with them in the future. After leaving the Shen Xiu residence, Sima Yue asked Feng Xiang to stop. Aunt Xiang, let's stop here. Sima Yue looked at Feng Xiang. Thank you for today. Your business is our business. You don't have to thank me, Feng Xiang said with a smile. She really liked Sima Yue's temperament. She did not have the temper of other young ladies. Even though she was recognized by the Great Lord, she was still so calm. Now that the divine medicine is in our hands, I don't think the people from the Shen Xiu clan will chase after us. I know that Auntie Xiang is usually busy. I'm fine here. If you want to go back to Feng people. Miss, before we left the Feng people, the Lord said that we will follow you in the future. Feng Xiang said with a smile. Follow me from now on? Not this time? Sima Yue opened her mouth in surprise. Yes. The Lord said, we often walk around outside so we know more people. This face is the identity of the Feng people. Others will recognize us if we go out. So as to prevent those ignorant people from provoking the young miss. At the same time, I can also protect you. But I'm not used to having so many people around me. Sima Yue said, there are so many of you. If all of you follow me, I'll be surrounded by a group of people wherever I go. That doesn't matter. Your little realm's environment is pretty good, it's very suitable for cultivation. We usually have our own things to do, so we rarely calm down to cultivate. This is a good opportunity for us. Feng Xiang and the others also liked the little realm. Alright then. You can cultivate inside. If anything happens, I will inform you in advance. Sima Yu opened the little realm and let them in. She looked around and saw that there was no one around. She flashed into the spirit pagoda. Little Seven and Qi Yan didn't stay by the soul pool anymore. Sima Lu Xian was also moved into the house by Little Spirit. After such a long time, his condition had stabilized. When Sima Yue entered the house, he opened his eyes for a moment before closing them again. The extreme pain made him feel that staying awake was a luxury. Father, let me take your pulse. She walked over and grabbed his hand. That scorching temperature made him feel like he was being roasted on a fire. She carefully sensed the situation in his body. Just as Little Spirit had said, the soul fluid had neutralized the effects of rising from the ashes and nirvana of the phoenix. With the protection of Little Seven and Qing Yi's strength, even if every inch of his meridians were being reconstructed and expanded, it still wouldn't affect his body. His meridians hadn't been completely reconstructed, but he had already controlled the effects of the divine medicine. It was slowly recovering. When it was completely recovered, his strength would be restored. Sima Yue probed his spirit ocean. It was different from the previous withered and gloomy state. It had regained its color. The withered spirit ocean finally had some movement. Although it was just a little bit, it almost made her cry. "Father, you're recovering well. Take this pill. It can relieve some of the pain." She took out a pill and fed it to Sima Lu Xian. Fortunately, the pill melted in his mouth. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the strength to swallow it. Hearing movement outside the door, she got up and went out. She saw Su Xiao and the others outside. "Little junior sister, is your father all right?" Han Miao Shuang asked. "He's still recovering. Every inch of his meridians needs to be reconstructed. This process is longer and more painful. Fortunately, the divine medicine can not only reconstruct his meridians, but also increase his strength. In addition to the essence of Little Seven and the others, Father's strength will not be a problem. He might even be able to increase it." Sima Yue smiled. "That's good." Han Miao Shuang was happy for her. She finally had another load off her mind. In the past, when they heard her talk about what she wanted to do, they all felt tired for her. Now that there was another load, she could relax a little. "Little junior sister, how did you solve the Xianqiu family's problem?" Jiang Junxian asked. In the stone room, just as the people outside were forcing Xianqiu He to open the spirit barrier, Sima Yue came out of the spirit pagoda. Not only did she keep 1,000 resonants in the spirit pagoda, she also kept the 3 of them in. In order not to disturb Qi Yan and the others, Little Spirit didn't inform them of the situation outside. So Jiang Junxian and the others didn't know how she left the Xianqiu family. Sima Yue told them what happened before. She also told them about the Feng people. The 3 of them were stunned. "I didn't expect the divine clan to be above the hidden clan. If we knew about their identity, we wouldn't have to worry about you." Han Miao Shuang patted Sima Yue's shoulder hard to express her feelings. Hee. Sima Yue received 2 slaps. Anyway, her body was good, so it didn't hurt at all. "Since we're already out of the Xianqiu family, let's go out too. We haven't taken a good look at the inner region." Su Xiao said, "Oh right, little junior sister, are we going to look for Master next?" She said before that after getting the divine medicine and treating Sima Lu Xian, they would look for Su Jin. That was why he asked. We're going to look for Master. However, I have to go back to the family first. I'm still worried about the Qi spirit. I don't know if great-grandfather and the others went back obediently." Sima Yue said, "Also we have to understand where Master and the others are. We can't blindly look for them." "Then let's go back first." Han Miao Shuang thought that Sima Yue would wait for Sima Lu Xian to fully recover before leaving. She didn't expect that she would immediately take them out of the spirit pagoda and find a city with a spatial ship. They took the spatial ship back to the Sima family. 3 months later, Sima Yue and the others returned to the Sima family. At this time, Sima Lu Xian's body was fully recovered. Before returning to the family, she brought him out. At this time he looked completely different. Although he looked relatively calm before, his eyes revealed the vicissitudes of life and sorrow. The current him was like a rusty treasured sword that had recovered its sharpness in the past. He actually gave people a feeling of superiority. Huang Yingying and the others saw their son who had recovered his usual vigor. Her eyes were filled with tears as she patted his shoulder. She was so emotional that she couldn't speak. "I knew that Yu was still here. She would definitely be able to cure you. Now it seems that she didn't disappoint." Sima Lu Feng circled Sima Lu Xian twice and said with a smile, "No, you're stronger than before. Could it be that you've advanced?" Chapter 1590. Sima Lu Xian saw the look of disbelief on Sima Lu Feng's face and reached out to pat his shoulder, saying, "You've been slacking off all these years." In other words, he admitted that he had advanced. Not only had she recovered her strength, but she had also improved. This girl was really good to her father. Sima Lu Feng was envious. If only he had such a considerate child. At this moment, Sima Lu Feng, who had always been engrossed in cultivation, had the thought of having children for the first time. It's a pity that this head of white hair can't be changed. Sima Lu Yun was a little regretful. So be it. When mother sees father like this in the future, she will be able to understand what he has done. Sima Yue said with a smile, and I think father looks good like this. Yue, is there something wrong with his body? I won't. The melanin in her father's hair had changed when he was in Ghost City. It won't affect anything. Sima Yue said. That's good. Since you're back, then stay at home and cultivate properly. Sima Xiuqi said, don't do such foolish things in the future. Sima Lu Xian wanted to say that it wasn't a stupid thing to do, but when he thought of his disappearance and his parents and brothers looking for him for decades, he couldn't bring himself to say it. Sima Yue stepped forward and held Sima Xiuqi's arm, asking, Grandpa, how is the Qi Ling? I heard that many people died after we left. But one day there was nothing. It was as if nothing had happened. Sima Xiuqi said. All gone? Han Miao Shuang cried out in surprise. Yes. The Qi spirit is gone, and the mausoleum is empty. When everyone went in, they only saw corpses all over the ground. Although they did not see it with their own eyes, they could imagine the scene at that time. It seems like they've all retreated. I wonder why they're doing this. Sima Yue was puzzled. Ken must have some kind of secret. As long as they don't provoke us, we won't care about this for now. Sima Yue said, Grandpa, I have something to ask you. What is it? Do you know where the Lost Lands are? Do you know anything about that place? Lost Lands? Huang Yingying almost dropped the teacup she had just picked up. She looked at Sima Yue in surprise and asked, Why are you asking about that? Sima Yue told her about how Su Jin and Gu Lang went to the Lost Land to find a solution to her body's problem. Then she said, they have been gone for so many years. Director Mao said that they haven't sent any news back for a long time. Although their life plates are still intact, my senior brothers and sisters are very worried about them, so we want to go and look for them. Hearing that they had lost contact because of her, the words of persuasion that were on the tip of their tongue could not come out. Huang Yingying and Sima Xiuqi looked at each other. Both of them were equally worried. Grandpa, do you know about the Lost Land? Sima Yue understood when she saw their reaction. Yes, in order to find little Xian, we went to the Lost Lands and almost didn't make it out. There are many experts there and it's very dangerous. If you want to go, your grandpa and I will go with you. We also have to bring some people. Wang Yingying said. Sima Yue thought about it. If she didn't agree, they wouldn't let her go. So she nodded and replied, it will attract attention if there are too many people. If you go, you have to stay in the little realm. That's not a problem. As long as she brought it with her, it would be fine if she could use it at the crucial moment. Grandpa, what is the Lost Lands? Why is it so mysterious? Sima Yue asked. The Lost Lands is the same as the Ghost City. It doesn't exist in this continent. Sima Xiuqi's words piqued everyone's interest. Sima Yue was only surprised for a moment before she accepted it. The world was so big. Since there was a Ghost City, there would naturally be other similar places. Grandpa Qi, why is it called the Lost Lands? Why is it so mysterious? We heard from Director Mao that we can only send news out from the inside. There's no way to send news back from the outside. Han Miao Shuang asked curiously. The Lost Lands is a place where the Divine Clan used to live. After the Divine Clan fell, the place where they lived became smaller. The Lost Lands also became mysterious. The people who live there now are more or less related to the Divine Clan. Sima Xiuqi explained. Divine Clan? Little junior sister, did you go to the Lost Lands the last time? Divine Clan? Yue, you are related to the Divine Clan? The Sima family stared at her with their eyes wide open. Yes. Sima Yue was frightened by their stares and subconsciously moved closer to her father. But the place I went to last time wasn't the Lost Lands. Feng people are the real descendants of the Divine Clan. They are much nobler than those who are related to the Divine Clan. The real Divine Clan? You know them? Not only does little junior sister know them, they have a good relationship. Really? Aunt Feng is the lord of Feng people. The last time I left G City, I went to Feng people and cured Aunt Feng's old illness. I got the recognition of the Feng people. Sima Yue said, Aunt Feng might be the only overlord in this world. What? Overlord? Is there really an overlord? Yue, you're not lying to us, right? The Sima family was shocked. Was there still an overlord in this world? Wasn't it suppressed by the heavenly Tao and there hadn't been an overlord for hundreds of thousands of years? Aunt Feng advanced in a different way. She's not the overlord recognized by the heavenly Tao. Sima Yue said. Even so, it's still very powerful. Sima Lu Feng sighed. Sima Xiuqi calmed down and said, since that's the case, it shouldn't be too dangerous to go to the Lost Lands. Since the people there are related to the Divine Clan, they should know about the Feng people. You're recognized by the Lord of Feng people, they shouldn't dare to do anything to you. That's good. When we go there, junior sister will be our talisman. Han Miao Shuang smiled. Sima Yue wasn't so optimistic. She sighed and said, I hope we can find Master and the others smoothly. When do you plan to leave? In a few days. Sima Yue said, we've been on the road recently. Rest well and prepare more things to prevent them from being in a mess. Then I'll go out. Sima Lu Xian said. Father, are you going to look for Master? Sima Yue asked. Sima Lu Xian's body was unnatural for a moment. Yes, I have something to do with him. Go ahead. Sima Yue blinked at him. She didn't expose his thoughts. When they first met, Master must have ridiculed him. Now that he had recovered his strength, he had to show off in front of Master. She didn't expect her father to have such a childish side. Chapter 1591. Sima Lu Xian knew that his daughter was laughing at him, but there was nothing to be embarrassed about. Feng Zhixing was too arrogant the last time they met. At the same time, he was envious of his daughter. If he knew that Yue had healed his body, he would definitely be jealous. He followed his previous method and went to a small, inconspicuous shop. The shopkeeper had been here for 100 years, so he naturally knew Sima Lu Xian. Young Master Lu Xian, what brings you here today? The shopkeeper greeted him. Pass a message to Feng Zhixing. 3 days later at Fenghuang Mountain. Sima Lu Xian whispered. Young Master hasn't been in the sect recently. I don't know if he can bring it over in 3 days. The shopkeeper was in a difficult position, but then he remembered that the young master had instructed him to inform him immediately as long as it was something related to the Sima family. He decided to use the highest transmission mode in his heart. As for whether the young master would come or not, it was not something he could control. You can just tell him. Sima Lu Xian turned and left after he finished speaking. The shopkeeper immediately instructed the waiter and went to the backyard. There were still 3 days before the agreed time, so Sima Lu Xian wasn't in a hurry to go over. Instead, he strolled around the city. He had been to this place countless times and seen it countless times, but he had never been as emotional as he was today. After circling the area once, he slowly made his way towards Phoenix Mountain. Phoenix Mountain was actually not the habitat of the phoenix, and there was nothing related to the phoenix. It didn't even look like one. It was unknown who named this mountain range. Sima Lu Xian came under a big tree and felt that Feng Zhixing wouldn't be here so soon. He jumped onto the tree, found a familiar branch and lay down like before. His silver hair cascaded down like a white waterfall hanging in the air. Because of the lush canopy, it was very difficult to notice if one didn't look from below. When Feng Zhixing came here, he saw this familiar scene, except for the white hair that had replaced the black hair from before. Sima Lu Xian opened his eyes when he came, but his body didn't move. Sure enough, in less than a second, Feng Zhixing flew to the branch he used to like, his back against the trunk, one leg hanging, the other leg bent, very casually. Well, at least Sima Yue had never seen him like this, and the people of Integral Moon Palace had never seen him like this. From the day I saw you, I never thought that you would be a cripple forever, but I didn't expect it to be so soon. You really have a good daughter. Of course. Yue is very considerate, this is something you can't be envious of. Sima Lu Xian put his hands behind his head and laughed very infuriatingly. Feng Zhixing gestured at him. Tell me, why did you call me here today? Don't tell me it's just to show off to me that you have a good daughter? I'm very busy. Nothing, I just came to catch up with you. Sima Lu Xian said. Est-ce you want me to believe you? If you don't say it, I'll leave. Anyway, it's almost time to catch up. Feng Zhixing said so, but he didn't move. Sima Lu Xian sat up, took out 2 wine jars, threw one to him, opened the other jar and took a sip. Seeing that Feng Zhixing drank it unceremoniously, he said, Aren't you afraid that I'll poison it? With your little ability, you don't have the ability to poison me. Feng Zhixing said disdainfully. You have to try. Sima Lu Xian didn't refute. Feng Zhixing ignored him, took another sip of the wine jar and said, It's good to guard your precious daughter. You can take out the good wine whenever you want. Pour me your master, it's gone after drinking it. It's good that I can give it to you. Sigh, I really didn't expect that we would have the opportunity to sit here and drink again. Drinking wine brewed by your daughter. Feng Zhixing said with some emotion. I really didn't think about it. Sima Lu Xian's eyes were a little nostalgic. Are you all right? Feng Zhixing asked. Well, except for this white hair. She won't despise you. At the mention of you Kuluo, both of them were silent. After a long time, Feng Zhixing touched his white hair, his eyes became sad. Integral Moon Palace is very good at collecting information. Do you know, other than Ghost City, how can I go to the Ghost Realm? Feng Zhixing almost choked on the wine, looked at Sima Lu Xian and shouted, "You still want to go to the ghost realm? Kuluo is over there, I'm going to find her." Sima Lu Xian's attitude was very clear, no matter what, he had to go to the ghost realm. Yu has always wanted to go to the ghost realm to save her mother. I'm afraid that she will do something stupid. Aren't you doing something stupid? With your strength, what can you do in the ghost realm? Although Feng Zhixing liked Yu Kuluo very much and wanted to see her again, he was more aware of the reality. Sima Lu Xian's face was full of bitter smiles. Yes, Yu Kuluo was taken away by the Ghost King. She would definitely be punished when she returned to the Ghost Clan. If he went, he would naturally go against the entire Ghost Clan. Could he really find her with his own strength? But if he didn't, he put his right hand on his heart. It was still very empty, very painful. Feng Zhixing looked at him like this, sighed and said, "It's not impossible to help you check, but you have to promise me one thing." "What?" "If you go, take me with you." Feng Zhixing requested, "It doesn't matter if you go alone or if you bring Yu along, bring me along." "You want to go too?" Sima Lu Xian looked at him. "Originally, I wanted to go back to the inner region, to be able to support Yu and let her live a carefree life in the inner region. But I didn't expect her to grow so quickly that she doesn't need me to do anything for her anymore. Moreover, I know her temperament a little, she won't change her mind once she has decided on something. Instead of watching you go on an adventure and worrying here, it's better to go together. Anyway, I've almost understood life, there's nothing to miss." Feng Zhixing explained. "You're still?" Sima Lu Xian sighed. He didn't finish his sentence, but both of them knew what he meant. "I said it's for you, you're thinking too much." Feng Zhixing's body was a little stiff. He took another sip of wine. But why did the mellow taste of the wine suddenly become so bitter and astringent? Sima Lu Xian looked at him. He didn't agree, but he didn't deny it either. He understood Feng Zhixing's feelings for Yu Kuluo, but he couldn't say anything to stop it. He was glad that Yu Kuluo liked him. Silence lingered between the two. To break the awkwardness, he thought of another purpose of coming here. "Do you have a map of the lost place?" "Yes." "Why, you want it?" "Yes. I want it now." "You want to go to the lost place?" Feng Zhixing glanced at him. "You just recovered your strength and you're restless again? It's Yu who wants to go. My good disciple almost turned the hidden family upside down. What is she going to do now?" Chapter 1592. Sima Lu Xian saw Feng Zhixing's interest and suddenly regretted looking for him. Could it be that this fellow wanted to snatch his daughter away? However, Feng Zhixing looked like he wouldn't give him the map if he didn't tell him. He knew that this guy would definitely continue to waste time with him. "How about this? It's been a long time since we last sparred. Let's compete. If you win, I'll tell you what we're going to do. If you lose, hand over the map obediently. What do you think?" Feng Zhixing glanced at him and said disdainfully, "With your newly recovered strength? Don't forget that I've been cultivating for a few decades longer than you. So what? It's still unknown who will win or lose." After that, Sima Lu Xian flew towards Feng Zhixing to attack. Feng Zhixing also went forward. In order to protect this sentimental tree, the two of them did not use any spiritual techniques. They fought as they flew into the distance. A few hours later, the exhausted duo collapsed on the hilltop. Both of them had some injuries on their bodies. Although they had bled a little, it was not serious. "I didn't expect that not only did you recover your strength, you even advanced. I also want to have a precious daughter." Feng Zhixing gasped for air. "You make it sound like my daughter doesn't treat you well." Sima Lu Xian wasn't any better. He grimaced as he spoke. "If you want to be like me, then make yourself a cripple first. Then forget it." Feng Zhixing didn't want to give Sima Lu Xian a chance to suppress him. If he were to become a cripple, he would probably end his life first. "Since we're tied, you can tell me now. Yu has a master called Su Jin. She has a teacher called Gulang. Do you know him?" "Yes, he's from Imperial College. He's quite famous in the mainland. Moreover, he was Sima Yoyue's master, so he naturally knew about him. Su Jin and Gulang went to the lost place for Yu. At first they would send news back, but then they went missing. Yu and the others were worried, so they wanted to go to the lost place to take a look." Sima Lu Xian said. "This child, why does she always take responsibility for everything? Was the Lost Lands a good place to go? Did she know what kind of people lived there? You are her father. How can you let her do whatever she wants?" Feng Zhixing scolded. He didn't treat the person in front of him as his peer at all. "You're her master, you do it." Sima Lu Xian didn't believe that he could persuade his daughter. Feng Zhixing opened his mouth but didn't say anything. He sighed faintly and said, "She's even more stubborn than her mother." Sima Lu Xian didn't respond. His daughter looked like her mother, and even her temperament was 70% inherited. As long as it was something she wanted to do, no matter how difficult the road ahead was, nothing could stop her. He didn't say anything. Feng Zhixing continued, "It's not impossible to get the map, but I want to go too. I can't be at ease with you around." Sima Lu Xian never thought of not letting him go, but what he said was a little annoying. So, the two of them wrestled together again. In the end, you broke a few ribs and I lost an arm. This situation was comparable to the time when Sima Lu Feng and Deja fought. However, at that time, Deja and they didn't like each other. The two of them were just reminiscing about their past friendship. When Sima Yue came and saw such a miserable scene, she couldn't help but sigh faintly. "Father, Master, the two of you added up to more than 1,000 years old, right? Why are you still fighting like children?" She came to the two of them and checked their injuries. Sima Lu Xian and Feng Zhixing were stunned when they saw Sima Yue suddenly appear in the air. There are 3 divine paragon beasts and 2 transcendent divine beasts nearby. Now that the two of you are in this state, if they come over, what will you do? Sima Yue took out a pill for the two of them to eat as she muttered. She didn't think of it, but the two of them were too unreliable at times. "Those who have some friendship with us won't come out," Sima Lu Xian said unnaturally. "I saw a guy coming here just now. If he didn't release Qi Yan's aura, I'm afraid this mountain would have been smashed away." Sima Yue snorted. "How is that possible?" The two of them on the ground shouted at the same time. "Those supreme beasts usually stayed in their own territories and wouldn't come here. Why would they come here today?" "I think it might be the aura of the divine medicine from Father's body," Sima Yue guessed. "Father's body has absorbed the effects of the medicine, but it hasn't completely dissipated. This battle will more or less have the aura of the divine medicine. No matter what, a spirit beast's nose is more sensitive than a human's." The two of them on the ground looked at each other with resentment in their eyes. "By the way, Yue, why are you here?" Feng Zhixing finally gave up on Sima Lu Xian and focused his attention on Sima Yue. "To practice the spatial technique that I just mastered not long ago." Sima Yue casually made up a story. She couldn't say that she was worried that the two of them would fight when they met, so she followed them. But even if she didn't say it, they should be able to understand. When the two of them recovered their spiritual power, she took them back to the Sima family. The pills that she gave them were for internal injuries, so the panda eyes on their faces and half of their faces were swollen. When they got home, it didn't seem to go down at all. Seeing the two of them with bruised noses and swollen faces, the Sima family's people widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Those who were closer to them even asked if they were in trouble. Feng Zhixing and Sima Lu Xian smiled bitterly. She was teaching the two of them a lesson so that they would either fight or fight when they met. Sima Yue also knew that this was a sign that the two of them had feelings for each other, but she still didn't want things like hurting their bodies to happen too often in the future. Seeing her angry little face, the two of them also learned their lesson and sighed, thinking that they wouldn't let her worry about them in the future. But when the two of them looked at each other, they still didn't like each other. In the past, they were both talented and had fought many times, forming a revolutionary friendship. But later on, they met Yukoluo, and the revolutionary friendship couldn't be compared to the destruction of their love rival, so the two of them were even more displeased with each other. After Sima Yue brought them back, she took the map that Feng Zhixing gave her to study. The people who lived in the lost place were all related to the God clan. She didn't know if they recognized the identity of the God clan. If they didn't, this trip would be much more difficult for her. Moreover, Master and the others hadn't sent any news back for so many years. Although they were fine, they should be in deep prison with no freedom. If she wanted to save them, she had to find their whereabouts first. But just this alone was difficult enough. But no matter how difficult it was, she had to do it. She had to save Master and the others. Chapter 1593. Because of Sima Lu Xian and Feng Zhixing's matters, the trip to the Lost Land was postponed for a few days. Knowing that they were going to such a dangerous place, Sima Zhiyuan directly gave half of the cloud guards to her, saying that since there was a little realm, no matter how many people went, they would not disturb her. They just wanted to give her a strong backing, but this backing was not strong enough. Now that the mainland was in chaos, Sima Yue was worried about the Sima family. If the men in black, the undead, or the Qi spirit jumped out and targeted the Sima family, she did not know what would happen. Sima Yue had no choice but to reveal the existence of Feng Xiang and the others. With them around, 1 against 100 would be a piece of cake. Moreover, there were people from the Blood Fiend city in the small realm. Although most of them weren't strong enough in the inner regions, there were still some experts among the hundreds of thousands of people. Despite knowing all this, Sima Zhiyuan still gave her 100 men and insisted that she lead them. Sima Yue was stubborn and had no choice but to agree. She placed everyone in the little realm. Just before they were about to leave, someone came looking for them. Sima Yue was pleasantly surprised to see the people who were brought to her courtyard by the maidservant. She shouted, "Old Bai Liangkai, why are you here?" It was Bai Sheng and Lu Liangkai. Sima Yue did not expect to see them so soon. "Greetings, Vice Valley Lord." The two of them bowed to Sima Yue. She hurried forward and pulled them up. "Why are you two here? How are the people in the valley?" "Everything is fine, but everyone misses you very much." Bai Sheng saw that Sima Yue had become much stronger after not seeing her for a few years. He was genuinely happy for her. "I miss everyone too." Sima Yue was in a good mood when she saw two familiar faces. She led them into the living room. "How's your development in the inner region going?" "Knowing that the Vice Valley Lord's home is in the 64th state, we decided to develop here. In the beginning it was difficult. Later the He family and the Sima family helped us, so we managed to gain a foothold in a few years," Lu Liangkai replied. Sima Yue knew that they had come to the 64th state to develop, but a state was very big. Plus they were both busy, so this was the first time they had met. "That's good. If the Sima family and the He family can't help you in the future, you can turn to the Shenyuan Pavilion," Sima Yue said. At the same time, she thought that she should go to the Shenyuan Pavilion to inform them. Bai Sheng and the rest naturally knew of Shenyuan Pavilion's position and also knew that Sima Yue and Shenyuan Pavilion had some relationship. They didn't expect that this relationship would be useful in the inner regions. What they didn't know was that the Shenyuan Pavilion was built by the Feng people. On the surface, it was managed by the Jun family, but those with a higher status knew that the masters behind the Shenyuan Pavilion were the Feng people. And she was now the young miss of the Feng people. Asking for help from the Shenyuan Pavilion was as easy as asking for help from her own family. "Oh right, why are you here today?" Sima Yue knew that the two of them were busy trying to break into the inner regions and didn't have the time to visit. "It's like this. The people in the valley knew that you were going to look for your master, so they refined some things and sent them over. We thought that we haven't seen the Vice Valley Lord for a long time, so we sent them over," Bai Sheng explained. "How did you know that I was going to save master?" Sima Yue asked curiously. Jiang Junxian told the people in the valley. "He heard that it's very dangerous there and there are many experts. So Fatty Chu brought the armament masters in the valley to refine quite a number of thunderbolt bombs. I don't think the valley needs to prepare anything else," Bai Sheng said and took out a space ring for her. Sima Yue scanned it. There were piles of small metal balls inside. They were piled up higher than a small mountain. If they were used to bomb the Sima family, they probably wouldn't even use half of them. Other than that, there were piles of pills. Knowing that she had the spirit pagoda, they didn't send her any herbs. There were piles of array stones at the side. If she used all of them to carve a teleportation array, she would probably be able to return to Paramount Valley. Even though they knew that she didn't lack anything, Master, Martial Uncle and Feng Heir still sent her so many good things. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but smile. At the corner of the space ring there was a pile of letters. Sima Yue randomly picked one up and read it. It was actually from Shiman Feng. The letter asked him to go back after he settled his matters. He planned to marry Kong Sengyi. But if Sima Yue didn't go back, the wedding date couldn't be set. Sima Yue felt that today was a good day. She couldn't stop such good intentions. Feng Heir is going to get married. Looks like I have to settle my matters quickly. Otherwise, I'm afraid Xiang Yi will come to me. She laughed and teased. Feng Valley Lord said that everything is ready. When you go back, you will get married. Although some people in the Kong Valley have objections, they all agreed. Lu Liangkai said. Sima Yue pursed her lips. Why did his words sound so ambiguous? What did he mean by getting married when she went back? He said it as if she was the bride. However, this was indeed because of her that their wedding was delayed. She secretly thought about when she would go back and let them get married. Seeing Shiman Feng's letter, she took out another one. This time it was a letter that Fatty Chu, that dog, had crawled over. Fatty Chu rambled on for a few pages, but Sima Yue concluded that there were 2 points. First, he had improved the Thunderbolt bomb. He didn't know what dangerous thing she was going to do, but this Thunderbolt bomb could be used. The second point was that they all missed her and didn't know when they would be able to see her again. They would work hard to cultivate and come to the inner regions to look for her. This guy. She couldn't finish her sentence after saying those 3 words. Fatty Chu and Bei Gong Tang's relationship was not worse than that of family. Ever since Dongqing Kingdom, their friendship was not something that could be described with just a few words. However, she didn't bring them to the inner regions. There were too many things to do with her and they couldn't cultivate properly. The distance between them and her was a little too far. It was better for them to spend more time cultivating now. They weren't born for her. Staying in the valley to cultivate was a better choice for them. As for Sima Lai and his grandson, Sima Yue missed them very much. She had asked Sima Hishun and the others to check before. The Sima family in Yilin continent and the Sima family in primordial lands were related by blood. It should be a family built by someone who had been expelled from the family many years ago. Before she came back, she had asked Sima Lai and the others if they were willing to come back if they were related by blood. Sima Lai and her 4 brothers all expressed that they weren't willing. It was good to stay in the valley as long as she went back to visit them. Chapter 1594. Bai Sheng and Lu Liangkai didn't plan to stay in Sima family for long, but Sima Yue said that she needed some time to write a reply to the people in the valley, so they had no choice but to stay. Thinking that there were still some primordial venerable stones in the spirit pagoda, she pushed back the date of departure by a few days. She went to the spirit pagoda and tamed a few primordial spirit beasts. After she had tamed them, she placed them in a small cage that was specially used to store spirit beasts. After that, she found a spatial ring that could temporarily house the spirit beasts and placed it inside before handing it over to Bai Sheng and the rest. This kind of interspatial ring had some air which could be used for spirit beasts to breathe. But the time was limited, so she asked Bai Sheng and the rest to return to Paramount Valley. Upon hearing that the ring contained an ancient spirit beast, the 2 of them, who had always been calm, were stunned. I've tamed one for everyone with status in the valley. I've even pasted their names on the cages. Don't mix them up. Sima Yue reminded. That won't happen. Let's set off now. Bai Sheng and the rest knew that there was a time limit to this kind of ring, so they prepared to leave immediately. Sima Yue was still worried and gave them 2 more space rings. If they did not return, they could at least buy some time. She was still worried, so she took 2 more rings. There were a total of 4 empty rings. Fortunately, the Sima family usually did a lot of work in animal taming, so this kind of space ring was not considered rare. Because of the importance of this matter, Bai Sheng and Lu Liang left the Sima family and went straight to Paramount Valley. Along the way, the 2 of them were on tenterhooks, afraid that even the slightest mistake would happen. When they returned to Paramount Valley, the 2 of them finally calmed down. Knowing that Shimin Feng, Liang Wu Ming and the others were discussing matters, the 2 of them went straight to the meeting hall. I wonder how Big Sister is doing now. As for the development of the inner circle forces, we need to speed up. Shimin Feng said. Then we'll have to speed up the extraction of spirit stones. Liang Wu Ming also wanted to expand his influence into the inner regions. Water flows downwards but people walk upwards. Old Bai and Liang Kai are back? Old Man Devil sensed the people outside the door and let them in. Bai Sheng and Lu Liang Kai came in directly and bowed to Liang Wu Ming and the rest. Old Bai, aren't you guys in the inner circle? Why did you come back? Shimin Feng asked. Reporting to the Valley Lord, we came back under the orders of Yoyue's Vice Valley Lord. Bai Sheng replied. Big Sister asked you to come back? What's the matter? Shimin Feng asked urgently when he heard Sima Yue. There is indeed something very important. Bai Sheng said as he took out a space ring and passed it to the 2 Valley Lord. We took the things that the valley had prepared for her to the Sima family, and she gave us this. What is this? Old Man Devil knew that once his precious disciple made a move, it would definitely be something extraordinary. Liang Wuming picked up the interspatial ring to take a look. When he saw the items inside, he was completely stunned. Liang Valley Lord? When the people below saw that he was stunned, they were very curious about what was inside. When Liang Wuming heard them calling him, he came back to his senses and took out the items from his spatial ring. One by one, cages appeared in front of everyone. Fortunately, the conference hall was large enough to accommodate these cages. When they saw the little beasts lying inside, everyone was very curious. These spirit beasts looked really strange, they had never seen many of them before. Old Bai, what spirit beasts are these? Bai Sheng went forward and destroyed the enchantment outside the cages. The ancient spirit beast's aura came out, shocking everyone. These are ancient spirit beasts. The news of the ancient mining area had spread throughout the entire continent. Now that they saw this, everyone understood. I didn't expect the Vice Valley Lord to have gotten so many ancient spirit beasts. If those powerhouses knew, they would be furious. When so many people went, not only did they not get any ancient spirit beasts, they even lost a lot of people inside. If they knew that Sima Yue had gotten so many, they would be so jealous. Yue said that these ancient spirit beasts have been tamed and she had allocated them. The names pasted on the cages are the people who have been allocated. Wai Xing said. When they saw the names on the cages, they guessed Sima Yue's intention. Everyone in the conference hall had a share. Liang Wuming and the rest stopped the meeting and got everyone to find their own ancient spirit beasts and let them go back to contract them. Alright, Yue even replied to everyone's letter. Bai Sheng took out the letter he kept and got people to distribute it. In the letter, she said that she would go back to take a look after settling the matters here. When the people in the valley received the letter, they were all very happy. When they heard that she had plans to return to the valley, the atmosphere in the valley was much better. When they found out that she got people to send the ancient spirit beasts back, the entire valley was in an uproar. Sima Yue's position in the hearts of the valley disciples was even higher. It seemed like there was nothing she couldn't do. When Fatty Chu and the rest received Sima Yue's reply and the ancient spirit beasts, their eyes were wet. Other than the leaders in the valley, only they and Sima Lai had spirit beasts. Even the vice hall master didn't have any. Yue asked us to cultivate properly and go to the inner regions to look for her. She still remembers our friendship. Chapter 1595. Sima Yue did not know how Paramount Valley would react after receiving the items, because she was already on the road with Sima Luxian and the others. However, they did not go directly to the Lost Lands. Instead, they went to a mountain and circled around. Father, are you sure that the map you gave us was here? Sima Yue and the others walked around a few times but still couldn't find the place that Sima Luxian mentioned. Before leaving, Sima Luxian found out that they were going to pass by Love Heaven Ridge, so he told them about it. Everyone unanimously decided to take a look around this place to see if they could get any treasures. This Love Heaven Ridge was not the Love Heaven domain that Sima Yue and Wu Lingyu had guessed. It was just an inconspicuous mountain range that could be seen everywhere on this continent. Therefore, after walking around a few times, everyone suspected that they had remembered the wrong place. I say, could it be that you're old and dim-sighted and remembered the wrong place? Feng Zhixing patted Sima Luxian's shoulder and said earnestly. It can't be wrong. Back then, your mother and I traveled here together and accidentally discovered the ancient tomb. At that time, we said that the two mountains looked like a pair of lovers. Sima Luxian pointed to the two peaks in the distance. Since there was a familiar place, it should be the right place. But why couldn't they find it after searching for so long? Sima Yu looked around. Other than mountains, there were more mountains. A spirit master's memory was very good, so he wouldn't remember the wrong place. That meant that there was something fishy about this matter. Father, where is the location of the place you discovered? Sima Luxian thought about it carefully and pointed to the east of the two mountains, saying, it should be in that direction. Could he have used an illusion array to hide the mountain? Han Miao Shuang guessed. However, Sima Yue shook her head. There are no traces of an array here. No matter how big an illusion array is, it can't possibly cover the entire mountain range. I didn't sense any fluctuations from the array formation either. Then where did that mountain go? No one could guess what was going on. There was no illusion array, the location was right, and there was no mountain that had been flattened. Then where did that mountain go? It was Sima Yue's first time encountering such a situation. She was at a loss. It's already late. Let's find a place to rest first and continue tomorrow. They had been in the mountains for so many days and were a little tired. I know there's a cave in front, let's go there to rest. Sima Luxian said as he led them to the two mountains that were close to each other. There was indeed a cave at the foot of the mountain where the two mountains faced each other. Once again, it proved that he did not remember the wrong place. They cleaned up the cave and made a fire. Han Miao Shuang got Sima Yue to roast some meat to pass the time while she went to help out. After returning to the cave, Jiang Jun Xian found a place and took out a soft mattress to sleep. Ever since Sima Yue began to treat him, he had been sleeping less and less. However, he hadn't slept at Love Heaven Ridge for so many days. Now that he relaxed, he quickly fell asleep and only woke up on the second day. Sima Yue not only roasted meat but also made a hot pot. Sima Xiuqi, Huang Yingying, Sima Luxian, Feng Zhixing, Su Xiaoxiao and Han Miao Shuang ate and drank until it was very late. As for Jiang Jun Xian, sleeping was more important than eating. They did not wake him up. After eating and drinking, everyone took out their beds to rest. Sima Yue finished packing and saw Sima Luxian alone at the entrance of the cave. The moonlight shone on him and his back looked a little desolate. Father, are you thinking of Mother? She walked over and stopped beside him. She imitated him and looked up at the moon. Yes. He looked sideways at her face that was 70% similar. It was as if he was looking at the person in his memory. Your mother and I stayed here for a while. Now that we're revisiting the old place, I don't know where she is suffering. Father, mother, she is not in any danger. Sima Yue wanted to say that she knew where her mother was. But she didn't know if he could bear it after saying it. You know? Do you know where she is? Sima Luxian was very smart. He immediately guessed the meaning of her words. When I was in the immortal land, I met cousin Deja. Sima Yue hesitated for a while but still said it. You met the ghost clan? Sima Luxian was surprised for a moment. That's right. The immortal land can be visited by the 3 clans. It's not strange that he went there. Did he tell you where your mother is? Yes. He said that mother was suppressed somewhere in the abyss of hell. He wanted to take the 100 ghost banner to the ancient battlefield to collect souls. In the end he met Xiaohei who swallowed all the souls. In the end he returned without any success. Sima Yue briefly told him about the immortal land. I think, since cousin found it, it should be true. The abyss of hell. Sima Luxian murmured. If he violated the oath, could he go there to find Kuluo? Father, don't do anything stupid. Sima Yue knew what he was thinking when she saw his expression. She grabbed his arm. If you violate the oath and go to the abyss of hell, you won't be able to come out even if I rescue mother. Do you want mother and me to accompany you in the abyss of hell for the rest of your life? Sima Luxian didn't expect Sima Yue to have such a big reaction. I'm just thinking about it. How can I bear to let you 2 accompany me there? Don't worry, I won't do that. Although he really wanted to, Sima Yue let go of him and continued to persuade. Father, I have already discussed with cousin. He will continue to investigate mother's whereabouts and find the specific place where she is suppressed. When I have enough strength, I will go to the ghost realm to save mother. Don't worry, I will definitely save mother. If you do something stupid, I will still have to save you, right? Sima Luxian didn't get angry because she ignored his strength. He nodded and said, I'll listen to you. But when you go to the ghost realm, you have to bring father along. This way we can be reunited earlier. Sima Yue smiled and nodded. Okay. She would just put him in the spirit pagoda and let him out when she needed him. Sima Luxian's thoughts moved and he asked, Do you know how to go to the ghost realm? They told me a way to go there, but I won't tell father. Sima Yue knew what he was thinking. How could she tell him the method? Deja told you? He heard you Kuluo mention Deja before and knew that he was one of the top in the ghost realm. No, it's another friend. Sima Yue thought of Mou. This guy was both a teacher and a friend. He was both good and evil. He taught her a lot of underworld skills. Now that she thought about it, it seemed like a long time had passed. She didn't know if she would meet him when she went to the ghost realm. She knew that she would go to the ghost realm sooner or later, but she didn't think that she would go there in such a way in the near future. So, I'm guessing that the other half of Heaven's halberd is in the tomb. She was no longer just guessing. However, Emperor Qingdao said that Heaven's halberd's whereabouts are unknown. I think he wasn't with him when he passed away. Therefore that tomb might not belong to Emperor Qingdao. However, we can't be sure. Maybe someone used it to find this tomb. No matter if it is or not, we'll know once we take a look. Sima Yue said as she flew up and grabbed Heaven's halberd, imprisoning it in her hands. All these years, Sima Yue had already refined Heaven's halberd. Her divine sense was deeply engraved in Heaven's halberd. She used her divine sense to pacify Heaven's halberd and it calmed down. However, it still wanted to fly in that direction. Let's follow it and take a look. Sima Yue asked Han Miao Shuang to wake Jiang Junxian up. Sima Yue used a rope to tie herself to Heaven's halberd. This way it could act as a compass and lead them to fly forward. At the beginning, Sima Yue and the rest had already walked on the same route. However, when they reached a mountain peak, Heaven's halberd did not turn. It still wanted to crash into the mountain. Sima Yue pulled it and did not allow it to go forward. However, it was unwilling and tried to move forward. When it could not move forward, it started to twist and turn. Yue, is there something wrong with this mountain? Jiang Junxian narrowed his eyes. A glint flashed past his eyes. You can tell too? Sima Yue looked at the mountain in front. If it was not for Heaven's halberd, she would not have noticed the problem. Previously, when Heaven's halberd encountered a mountain peak, it would go around it. It would not crash into it like this. This means that this mountain peak is different from the others. Feng Zhixing said, however, I don't feel the movement of an array. This means that this is not an illusion created by an array. It's indeed not an illusion. Sima Yue said, however, it is definitely not real. After speaking, she stopped imprisoning Heaven's halberd. Heaven's halberd was freed. It swished into the mountain and brought Sima Yue with it. Yue, little junior sister. Everyone watched as she disappeared in front of their eyes. They were shocked and all rushed over. There was no obstruction. There was no expected pain and no expected resistance. It was as if they were flying straight through. Sima Yue stood in the air. Heaven's halberd was no longer as agitated. Instead it calmed down. That's right. It's here. The mausoleum is here. Sima Lu Xian looked at the surroundings. He was sure that this was the place that he came to with Kuluo. What's going on? We didn't discover any enchantment or array. How could that mountain be an illusion? Huang Yingying asked. That's because it's not an illusion. Sima Yue said, Master, you should know, right? Could it be the mausoleum's protection? Feng Zhixing did not think much about it at first. However, after Sima Yue's reminder, he thought of another possibility. What is the mausoleum's protection? It's the environment that the emperor built with his last bit of strength to protect his mausoleum. Sima Yue said. Then why didn't we encounter it when we came here previously? Sima Lu Xian asked. It doesn't happen all the time. Feng Zhixing said, if that's the case, no matter how much strength it has, it won't be able to withstand the consumption. I reckon that when you came here last time, it didn't take effect. Consider yourself lucky. Fortunately, we have Heaven's halberd this time. Without it, they probably wouldn't be able to find this place even after a few years. Now we have to find the entrance. Sima Xiuqi said, do you still remember? Yes. Since they found this place, they were familiar with it. He led everyone to the foot of a mountain and found a mechanism. With a press, the entire mountain was divided into two halves. An entrance to the underground was revealed in the middle. Sima Yue's mouth was slightly open. Looking at the scene in front of her, her eyes were wide open. This was too extravagant. Father could even find this, it was too awesome. We accidentally pressed the button for the entrance and found this. Sima Lu Xian explained. Chapter 1597. When Sima Yue reached the middle of the mountain, she raised her head and looked at the sky. She wondered what would happen if the mountain suddenly clamped down on her. Then she felt that her idea was laughable. How could it be so easy? If that was the case, the mausoleum would not have been built back then. However, it was rare to see someone move a mountain to make a tomb door. It had to be said that this was a big deal. After they all went in, Sima Lu Xian pressed a button inside, and the split mountain slowly closed again. What they didn't know was that not long after they went in, a few people came in from the same place. They also came to the mountain and looked at the button. I didn't expect them to be one step ahead of us. Should we go in? The person who spoke had a hoarse voice. How do we get in? Which one of us is Sima Yue's match? Another person scolded. How unlucky to actually meet her here. Big brother, is that Sima Yue really that powerful? There are so many of us, why should we be afraid of them? You know nothing. Shut up. That big brother slapped that person, causing that little brother to feel wronged. Wasn't it just a little doll? What was there to be afraid of? Boss, what should we do now? What else can we do? Hurry up and leave. The boss said hatefully. This is the Celestial Emperor's mausoleum. Are you giving it up just like that? I know. Get the hell out of here. You're so annoying. The boss waved his hand impatiently at the people around him. Looking at them, his heart ached even more. He found a map by chance and followed the instructions on it to find this place. He did not expect to meet Sima Yue before he even entered. He had stayed in Fair Eastern City before and had witnessed the battle between the Ghost Clan and Sima Yue's performance. When the tribulation lightning struck the ghost, it also struck his heart. From then on, the person he was most afraid of was naturally Sima Yue. He was afraid that if he were to face her directly, he would be struck by lightning. This was a mausoleum that had been discovered with great difficulty. There must be a lot of treasures inside. Now all of them were going to be taken away. Just thinking about it made his heart bleed. However, he did not have the guts to snatch things from Sima Yue. After hesitating for a while, he decided to leave with his men. He was waiting for Sima Yue and the rest to leave so that he could see if he could pick up more treasures. Sima Yue could not help but smirk when she heard the news from the Scarlet Bees. Han Miao Shuang happened to see her like this and asked curiously, "Little junior sister, why are you so happy?" "The rat behind us has left." Sima Yue smiled. "Rats?" Sima Xiuqi and the rest knew that there were people following behind them. Hearing Sima Yue's words, they felt strange. Those people knew that there was a mausoleum here, yet they left just like that. Wasn't this too illogical? I don't know either. Those people said that they left when they saw me coming in. They seemed to be very scared. Am I that scary? Sima Yue touched her face. She looked pretty good. How was she scary? Seeing her innocent look, everyone was silent. She probably did not realize that the things she did were quite scary in the eyes of others. Sima Yue threw this small matter to the back of her mind. Now that they had entered the mausoleum, they naturally had to be 120% alert. Who knew when some traps would appear? Fortunately, the place that they entered at the beginning was the place that Sima Luxian had entered before. Any traps had been destroyed by him and his wife. After walking for a short distance, everything was peaceful. They came to an underground river. Sima Luxian said, "Of course Kaluo and I didn't go past here." Sima Yue saw the underground river. She felt that the ancient people liked to build tombs on both sides of the underground river. It was a long underground river that divided the mausoleum into two sides. Why didn't you go there that day? Firstly, it was because Kaluo was pregnant at that time and felt that it was too dangerous. If the fetus was endangered, we would lose more than we gained. Secondly, it was because we had already obtained some treasures, so we didn't have any greedy thoughts. Speaking of you Kaluo, Sima Luxian's eyes were smiling, which made Feng Zhixing snort coldly, taking the opportunity to show off their love. Huang Yingying and the rest felt that he did a good job. The dangers inside are unknown. If anything happened at that time, we wouldn't have such a good granddaughter like Yue. It's best to be careful. Buzz buzz buzz, Heaven's halberd that had been quiet for a long time became restless again. It moved vigorously in her hand as if it was dissatisfied with her stopping. It seems that this guy wants to cross the river. Sima Yue looked at it speechlessly. There was only half of it left. Why was it still so restless? It seems that its other half is over there. Feng Zhixing said. Do you want to go over? Sima Yue's mouth twitched. Why did it sound a little awkward when she heard Master's other half? She didn't know whether Master and Father were together well or not. When I met Emperor Qingdao's divine sense, I said that if possible, I should try my best to merge the halberd into one. Now that I know it's on the other side, how can I not look for it? Moreover, I think the owner of this mausoleum should be over there. Since I'm here, I have to go over and pay my respects. Actually, she didn't care about paying respects to the owner of the mausoleum. She just wanted to know if this was Emperor Qingdao's mausoleum. She always felt that she had some connection with Emperor Qingdao. No matter if it was when she obtained Heaven's halberd, or when she saw his divine sense in Tongtian Pavilion, or when she comprehended on the spatial ship, or when she saw him in a hazy state, there seemed to be some kind of mysterious connection. However, she couldn't explain why. The other half of Heaven's halberd had long disappeared. How could it appear here? Was it a coincidence? Or was there really someone like her who obtained the other half of Heaven's halberd and found this place with guidance, but left it here? Seeing Sima Yue standing in the same place, her expression changed. He didn't know what she was thinking. Yue, what are you worried about? Why don't you let me and your father explore the way first? Feng Zhixing didn't forget to pull Sima Luxian along. Well, if there was danger, they had to bear it together. Sima Luxian secretly rolled his eyes at him. Sima Yue turned her head and saw the interaction between the two. Her previous worries disappeared in an instant. The two bickered, but their relationship was still very good. Only when they really didn't care about the past could they be together so naturally. She smiled and said, Master, I was just thinking that the main mausoleum is over there. The coffin should be placed there. When we find the owner, we will know if this is Emperor Qingdao's mausoleum. Chapter 1598. Sima Yue was still a little obsessed with Emperor Qingdao. Perhaps it was because he was the first celestial emperor she had come into contact with, or perhaps it was because he had told her that he hoped she could change the heavenly Tao. Her strength was not considered high, so she could not feel the influence of the heavenly Tao. The only thing that left an impression on him was the experience of being struck by the cloud spirit, and the lightning punishment he received when the Feng people said something that defied the heavens. To ask her to change the heavenly Tao, she felt that this was no different from a dream. However, when she thought about how Aunt Feng was an emperor who was not recognized by the heavenly Tao, and how countless cultivators were imprisoned under the emperor, she felt that the heavenly Tao was a little unfair. Forget it, what kind of strength do I have now? What's the point of thinking so much? With that thought, she leapt up and easily flew over the underground river, arriving at the other side of the mausoleum. There was no weightlessness as he had expected, nor was there an oncoming attack. There was nothing at all. Just like that, he safely flew to the opposite shore. Wasn't this a little too good? Seeing the confusion in Sima Yue's eyes, The 3 senior brothers and senior sisters who had experienced the mausoleum with her laughed out loud. Do you think that all tombs are as dangerous as before? Sima Yue was embarrassed. Although she didn't think it was as dangerous as before, she didn't expect it to be so easy. Soon the others also flew over and the group continued to walk inside. The other side of the mausoleum was different from before. It was completely empty. Sima Luxian said that he and Yukuluo had obtained a lot of treasures the last time they were outside. Even little spirit was obtained from this tomb. There aren't any traps along the way, it feels too strange. Sima Xiuqi frowned. There must be something fishy going on. The others also understood this, so they were even more careful in the later part of the journey. However, they really didn't encounter any danger along the way. This is too strange. Feng Zhixing stopped in his tracks. He walked in front and when he stopped, everyone stopped as well. Is this really the Imperial Emperor's mausoleum? Su Xiaoxiao and the others were puzzled. It could be said that they did not obtain any treasures along the way, nor did they encounter any danger. How could there be such an Imperial Emperor's tomb? Even Sima Luxian was a little confused. However, back then he and Yukuluo had indeed obtained some treasures. Just the soul stone left for Sima Yue was not something that an ordinary person could possess. If this wasn't an Imperial Emperor's tomb, then what was it? After walking for a long time, Sima Yue finally understood. She looked at the heavens halberd that was still excited, and said, "Regardless, we'll know once we continue walking. Unless the Emperor is reborn, he can't do anything to us." Thinking about it, Sima Yue had brought so many people with her in her little realm, especially Feng Xiang and the others. With that kind of power, she could do whatever she wanted in the entire continent. Thus, the group continued to move forward. However, this time he stopped again after walking for a short while. "We can't leave." Feng Zhixing said, "There's something blocking the way ahead." Sima Luxian was behind him. When he heard what he said, he went around and reached out to touch it. Sure enough, he encountered an obstacle. It's not a spirit barrier, nor is it an array. Feng Zhixing understood arrays. There was no fluctuation of spiritual energy in this obstacle, so it couldn't be these two kinds. This should be the same as the outside. It should be a protection left behind by the Emperor. Jiang Junxian guessed. "Let me try." Sima Luxian said and attacked in front. Sima Yue was worried that this movement would cause the tomb to collapse. Her heart jumped to her throat, but in the next second she saw the spiritual energy disappear silently. It seems that attacking is useless. Feng Zhixing said, "This should devour the spiritual energy." "Let me try." Huang Yingying said and also tried to attack. The result was the same as last time. "It's useless." When everyone saw the result, they knew that any more attacks would be useless. Heaven's halberd moved restlessly in Sima Yue's hand, wanting to move forward. She frowned and said in a deep voice, "The other half of Heaven's halberd is inside. Ordinary people can't go in. So this is really Emperor Qingdao's tomb?" Everyone couldn't go in. The other half of Heaven's halberd was inside, which meant that it was left here with the tomb owner. "It's a pity that we can't go in. Otherwise we would know who the owner is." Han Miao Shuang said regretfully. Heaven's halberd saw that Sima Yue stopped moving and moved even more vigorously. A force pulled her forward. "I can't go in," she said helplessly to Heaven's halberd, not caring if it understood. But Heaven's halberd didn't calm down. It kept pulling Sima Yue forward. Sima Yue was helpless. She took a few steps forward and felt a layer of obstruction. But she didn't stop because of it. Instead, she was pulled inside. You went in?" Han Miao Shuang looked at Sima Yue in surprise. How did she go in? Everyone else had strange looks on their faces. Everyone had been stopped outside, but she was the only one who had entered. Thinking about it, they all felt strange. When Sima Yue realized that she was inside, she was also surprised. She looked at Heaven's halberd in her hand and wondered if it was because of it. Before she could think of a reason, Heaven's halberd moved again and continued to pull her forward. "Yue, don't go in," Feng Zhixing shouted. Without them, she was alone. What if she was in danger? "Master, don't worry. I don't think there will be any danger inside." Sima Yue turned around and smiled at them. "Wait for me here. I'll be back soon." After speaking, she turned around and continued to move forward, ignoring their shouts. Really, how could she take such a risk? She's too impulsive. When she comes out, we must talk to her. Jiang Junxian wasn't worried at all. Seeing how anxious they were, he said, "Don't worry, junior sister has never been impulsive. Since everyone is blocked outside, there shouldn't be any traps inside. Since she can go in, it means that she's fated with this place." Sigh, how could they not understand what he said? But they couldn't help but worry. However, it was useless to say anything now. They couldn't go in and could only watch her disappear around the corner. After Sima Yue continued to move forward, Heaven's halberd quietened down. It would only lead her to the right path at the fork in the road. If it wasn't for the fact that she had refined it and brought it in, she would have suspected that it was alive and had stayed here for a long time. After walking for half an hour, Heaven's halberd brought her to a stone door. Just as she was thinking about how to enter, a gentle force came out from the door and enveloped her and Heaven's halberd inside. Then there was a loud boom. The stone door retreated to one side. Sima Yue saw the coffin lying inside. Chapter 1599. The stone chamber was very big. However, there were not many things inside. Or rather, there were very few things inside. There was only a stone coffin placed in the center of the chamber and, beside the stone coffin was a skeleton and an iron bar. Needless to say that Iron G should be the other half of Heaven's halberd. That was because the guy flew out of her hand the moment he entered the room and landed right next to the G. At the same time, the stone door began to close slowly. Sima Yue recovered from her shock and teleported into the stone door. That was close. He was almost locked outside again. She patted her chest and looked at Heaven's halberd, which had finally calmed down. Then she turned back to look at the stone door. Although that force had enveloped her entire body, she could sense that it had let her in because it sensed Heaven's halberd. Just now, when Heaven's halberd came in, the stone door was about to close, which proved this point. She walked over and picked up the other half of Heaven's halberd. Oh, this metal thing. If Heaven's halberd wasn't so close to her, she really wouldn't have been able to tell what it was. Alright, now that the two of you have finally reunited, once I reach a certain level of refining, I will combine the two of you into one. Now go back and rest. She kept Heaven's halberd in her spirit pagoda. Now that it had found its other half, it would no longer cause trouble. Sima Yue shook her head. She thought to herself that this was indeed a divine artifact used by the Emperor. Even though it did not have an artifact spirit like the spirit pagoda, it was still very intelligent. When she picked up the iron bar, she tripped over a bone on the ground. Until his death, the man held the iron rod tightly. She looked at the corpse on the ground and then at the coffin. She decided to study this guy first. How did this person die? There was no murder weapon on the ground. Looking at his bones, he was neither injured nor poisoned before he died. It seemed like he died suddenly. However, this was not necessarily the case. She was not a professional autopsy, so she was not sure what the reason was. However, there was one thing that she was sure of. This person's death was definitely related to the tomb owner. Danger lurked in this stone chamber. She put away this person's spatial ring and wanted to use her divine sense to investigate it, but she found that she was blocked outside. Even though he had been dead for so many years and his body had turned into white bones, his divine sense still hadn't dissipated. Thinking of this, her heart trembled. This person's cultivation must be very strong, but he died without a sound. This meant that the danger here was much greater than she thought. She looked around cautiously. The spacious stone room was in plain view. She sensed for a bit and found that there were no isolated spaces. This meant that there were no traps on the walls. She opened her eyes, and her eyes were filled with confusion. Then she shifted her gaze to the only stone coffin here. She did not believe that this person would die here for no reason. There were no traps here, so the only possibility was that this stone coffin was dangerous. If the Emperor's corpse was really lying here, then it wasn't impossible. She stood where she was and hesitated. The people on the ground were so powerful, but in the end they still couldn't escape death. Would she be able to withstand it? Needless to say, the answer was no. However, it wasn't worth it if he didn't take a look at the Emperor's face. Moreover, her intuition told her that she would not be in danger. To look or not to look. She hesitated for a while, still unable to make up her mind. In the end, she saw the white bones on the ground. Thinking that she still had things to do, if she died here, wouldn't it not be worth it? Although she was curious, for the sake of her little life, she decided to forget about it. Anyway, this place wouldn't run away. When she had more or less settled her matters, when she had enough strength, it wouldn't be too late to come back. Thinking of this, she turned around and prepared to leave. However, she heard a sigh echoing in the stone room. Following that, the stone coffin lid flew to the side. A silver light flew out from the stone coffin and wrapped around her, pulling her back. Everything happened too quickly. In less than a breath's time after she heard the stone coffin's movement, she was pulled into the stone coffin. The back of her head fiercely hit the bottom of the coffin. A force directly rushed into her body. Before she fainted, there was only one thought in her mind. This stone coffin was empty. There was no one inside. Not knowing how long had passed, she slowly opened her eyes and climbed out of the coffin. However, she discovered that the white bones on the ground had disappeared. At the same time, the stone door slowly opened. A figure walked in from outside. She could tell that his strength was very high. His face was filled with excitement. At first she was shocked, thinking that if this person came in, would her father and the rest who were guarding outside be in danger? Following that, she quickly discovered that something was wrong. She was standing in front of this person, but he didn't seem to see her. Most importantly, he was holding that rusty iron G in his hand. Found it. I finally found you. As long as I obtain your inheritance, would I be afraid that I won't be able to advance to emperor? At that time, who in this continent would be able to do anything to me? Ha ha ha. That person laughed arrogantly. It was as if he had seen his beautiful future. Sima Yue then realized that what she was seeing now should be an illusion and not real. That wasn't right. She felt that what she saw should be the scene that happened in this stone room. It was when the white bones on the ground entered. She subconsciously took a glance at the stone coffin. That lid was still firmly on top of it. After that man laughed for a while, he began to observe this stone room. After confirming that there weren't any mechanisms, he placed his attention on the only stone coffin here. He stretched out his hand to touch the lid of the stone coffin and muttered, "That's right. That map was talking about this stone coffin. Emperor Qingdao was resting here. It was said that as long as you brought something with Emperor Qingdao's aura, you would be able to enter this stone room." It was really true. Sima Yue was slightly startled. Was this really Emperor Qingdao's mausoleum? That wasn't right. Before she fainted, she clearly saw that there was no one in this stone coffin. This was an empty coffin. Emperor Qingdao wasn't here. Although it was like what this person said. Only things with Emperor Qingdao's aura could enter this place. But this could only mean that this place was related to Emperor Qingdao. It could even be one of the fake tombs that he cultivated for himself. While she was thinking about this, that man had already forcefully pushed open the lid of the stone coffin. Seeing that there was nothing inside, he cried out in shock. How is this possible? Being agitated by the empty stone coffin, he lifted the lid of the stone coffin. He obviously used a lot of strength and ordinary stones would have shattered. But the lid of the stone coffin was still intact. Fake tomb? Fake tomb? I spent so much time and effort to find a fake tomb. He grabbed onto the edge of the coffin. His body couldn't help but tremble. Sima Yue could tell that he was furious and disappointed. At this moment there was a sudden movement from the coffin. Chapter 1600. Sima Yue saw the light emitted from the sarcophagus. It was the same as the light that had wrapped around her. But unlike her, she was swept into the coffin while he was still in the same place. Inheritance. Inheritance. The man's disappointment and anger turned into ecstasy. Sima Yue pursed her lips when she heard what he said. He must have gone crazy thinking about the inheritance. How could this light be an inheritance? She did feel that it was dangerous. However, that person didn't think so. He closed his eyes and wanted to accept the inheritance. However, not long after, Sima Yue saw that his brows were tightly knitted together. His body swayed and he held onto the sarcophagus to prevent himself from falling. Ah! Before Sima Yue could figure out what was going on, beams of light shot out from the man's body. Although there was no blood, it gave off a strange feeling. After a few breaths, the man fell to the ground, still holding the other half of the halberd in his hand. Not long after he fell, a silver light flew out from his body and wrapped around the lid of the coffin. Dong! The coffin landed firmly on top of the stone coffin, and the entire room fell silent. If not for the corpse on the ground, it would have been as if nothing had happened. There was no blood, no injury. A person who was close to the sovereign realm had died quietly. Yes, suddenly remembering something, she could not help but spit out a sentence. Previously, she had also felt the silver light enveloping her. Her body wouldn't become like this, right? If that was really the case, it would be useless no matter how many times she said it. Hee hee, laughter was suddenly heard. The voice sounded familiar, but it made Sima Yue tense up. Who is it? She looked around warily. Who do you think I am? The other party did not show himself. Sima Yue thought about it and widened her eyes. Emperor Qingdao? The scene in front of him changed. He was still in the stone room a moment ago, but now he was in a vast snowy plain. That black figure was particularly eye-catching in the snow. Although she had only seen him twice, Sima Yue recognized him immediately. He was Emperor Qingdao. She walked over and stopped 10 meters away. That person turned around. It was Emperor Qingdao whom she had met twice. Emperor, it's really you. She was still a little surprised in her heart. Why was he here? You still alive? Do you think I can live that long? Emperor Qingdao saw through her thoughts and smiled. Sima Yue smiled embarrassedly. Isn't the emperor's lifespan limitless? Monarchs aren't omnipotent. Monarch Qingdao seemed to have thought of something and his voice sounded a little sad. Sima Yue also knew that the monarch wasn't omnipotent. Otherwise, Feng Ruyan wouldn't have been delayed by her old illness for so long and almost died. Emperor, are you also a wisp of divine sense? Emperor Qingdao came out of his thoughts and asked Sima Yue, where did you see me? Where did the heaven's halberd come from? Where did you see him? Didn't he remember? I bought the heaven's halberd from an auction. As for our first meeting, it was in Clear Sky Pavilion. There, I met a wisp of your divine sense. The second time, when I was comprehending, I was clearly comprehending, but I saw your shadow. It should have been an illusion. Sima Yue replied. You actually went to Clear Sky Pavilion. That means your talent is very good. Emperor Qingdao's tone was indifferent. It was obviously a compliment, but Sima Yue felt strange. You don't know that we've met before? Emperor Qingdao shook his head. What you saw was only a wisp of my divine sense. After it left my body, it became independent. I can't sense it. No wonder he looked at her with a strange gaze. Then the current you is, I'm just a wisp of soul left here to be taken care of in the tomb. Emperor Qingdao said sadly, I should say that I'm nothing. So you're saying that this tomb is really yours? Sima Yue asked in astonishment. Yes and no. Emperor Qingdao saw her conflicted face and smiled, explaining, you can just treat it as a crafty rabbit having 3 burrows. Sima Yue pursed her lips. Was that the same thing? Who would make so many tombs for themselves? She slapped her forehead and looked at Emperor Qingdao, asking, am I dead too? You're not. This is just an illusion I made. How can that be? I saw that person die within a few seconds after he was wrapped in the silver light. He was someone close to the strength of an emperor. I'm just a small monarch. If he couldn't resist it, how can I? Sima Yue felt that she should be dead. You're different from him. Emperor Qingdao said, you have something he doesn't. I have something he doesn't? What? You have the aura I left on you. Emperor Qingdao explained, if you don't have it, the inheritance I left behind would be a fatal poison to him. Sima Yue recalled that when she was in the heavenly pavilion, Emperor Qingdao had dissipated and turned himself into an aura that entered her body. Did he save her life? Wait, inheritance, there really was an inheritance? You're saying that the silver light was an inheritance? Yes. Sima Yue pursed her lips. When she heard the man shouting excitedly about the inheritance, she thought that only an idiot would believe that it was an inheritance. She didn't expect that it was really an inheritance? Then wasn't she an idiot? She wouldn't admit that she was an idiot. Hence, she decided to abandon her previous thoughts and asked, what kind of inheritance do you have? Why does it have to be someone with your aura to not die? If no such person comes, then no one will be able to obtain the inheritance? Even if someone without his aura came in, he shouldn't have killed them. At most, he would just let them return empty-handed. I don't have any disciples or relatives in my life. My inheritance is naturally passed down to those who are fated with me. Those people came to my tomb and disturbed my peace. It's only right for me to take their lives. Emperor Qingdao didn't feel that what he did was wrong. Or rather, when he left behind this condition, he didn't feel that it was wrong. Sima Yue felt that she couldn't control a person who had been dead for hundreds of thousands of years. Emperor Qingdao had left behind such a condition at least for some benefits. If there wasn't such a condition, it wouldn't be her turn to take advantage of this. My inheritance is related to comprehension. As long as you grasp this, your comprehension of the heavenly Tao will naturally be much faster. Emperor Qingdao seemed to have noticed something strange. His figure flashed and appeared in front of her. Chapter 1601. Sima Yue was shocked by the face that suddenly enlarged in front of her. She instinctively took a step back. You, what are you going to do? Emperor Qingdao stared at her curiously. I really didn't expect that you would actually comprehend a domain at this level. You must know that there were very few people who could comprehend a domain at the monarch rank back in my time. Very few? Does that mean you're pregnant? Sima Yue asked. Those with great talent. Monarch Qingdao's voice was very calm. He wasn't envious at all because he was once one of them. There's no one on the continent who can do that anymore. Cultivating now is much harder than before. Sima Yu sighed. People nowadays really couldn't compare to others in terms of cultivation. I was already very few at that time. Emperor Qingdao said, at that time I felt that the heavenly Tao had changed. So, if you want to cultivate, you must overthrow the heavenly Tao. She thought about how she had been punished by the lightning punishment for going against the heavenly Tao. She subconsciously looked at the top of his head. Don't worry. This is just my illusion. The heavenly Tao won't know what we're talking about here. You won't be able to achieve what you want. Emperor Qingdao knew what she was thinking and laughed softly. Ahem. Sima Yue felt awkward as if her thoughts had been seen through. She was really wondering what would happen if he was struck by lightning. You were already an imperial emperor at that time. Didn't you think of rebelling against the heavenly Tao? Although I can feel it, I don't have the ability to do so. Only you can do it. Emperor Qingdao looked at Sima Yue with a complicated gaze. Sima Yue couldn't even read his emotions. Emperor, you must be joking, right? If an emperor like you can't do it, what can a mere monarch like me do? Sima Yue felt that he was thinking too much. I can't do it because I'm not that person. Although your current strength is not high, you are the one destined to be. Sima Yue pursed her lips. She had never believed in fated people, just like how she had to disguise herself as a woman for so many years because of what the Sage Pavilion had said. She felt that this was all nonsense. Could she destroy the Sage Pavilion by herself? Only a fool would believe that. Emperor Qingdao naturally saw that she didn't believe it, but he didn't argue with her. There were some things that one would only know if they were true after doing them. Whether you believe me or not, I will try my best to help you. He continued, I've also left some things for you in the other tombs. I'll give you the maps so you can look for them yourself in the future. With that, Sima Yue felt maps appearing in her mind. She subconsciously closed her eyes. When she opened them again, Emperor Qingdao was gone. The vast snowy plains were gone too. She was back in the stone room. Her head hurt a little. She rubbed it and found that she was no longer in the illusion. Her body was limp. She grabbed the sides of the stone coffin to sit up. The white bones were still lying quietly on the ground. The lid of the stone coffin was on the other side. The entire stone room was silent. It was as if everything was just a dream. If it wasn't for the extra maps in her mind, she would really think that way. Actually, she still had many questions to ask him. For example, why did he help her? Even if the heavenly Tao changed, he wouldn't be able to enjoy it. For example, if he left everything to her, wasn't he afraid that she wouldn't work after taking it? It was a pity that he couldn't answer her. After a long sigh, she began to examine her body. She found that the aura that Emperor Qingdao had left in her body had become stronger. Thinking about how he had turned into gas and entered her body, this spirit wouldn't be the same, right? After sitting in the coffin for a while, her body gradually recovered its strength. She climbed out of the coffin. Seeing the white bones on the ground, she thought about it and kept it in the spirit pagoda. She got little spirit to find a place to bury it. To be honest, his death was a little unjust. When her body had fully recovered, she went to the stone door. She injected Emperor Qingdao's aura into the stone door. The stone door retreated to the side like before. Yue, are you okay? When she went out, she saw a few people guarding outside the door. Grandfather, grandmother, father, why are you here? We just found that the energy that was blocking us disappeared. We followed the aura that you left behind to find you. Yue, are you okay? Huang Yingying pulled her to look at her left and right a few times, afraid that she was injured. When Sima Yue heard them say that the energy had disappeared, she guessed that it was because the spirit here had disappeared. Therefore, everything that Emperor Qingdao had left behind here had also disappeared. Yue, what are you thinking about? Huang Yingying pulled her. At this time she was still in a daze. Sima Yue saw that everyone was looking at her worriedly. She smiled and said, I'm fine. I even obtained Emperor Qingdao's inheritance. So you're saying that this is really Emperor Qingdao's mausoleum? No, this is just a fake mausoleum that he left behind. However, he left a spirit here to guard it. Then she recounted her experience inside. Just as she thought, everyone frowned. They were not happy because they heard that she was the destined person. Instead, they were worried. The so-called destined person has extremely good luck. Moreover, you will experience many hardships. Your luck is indeed better than ordinary people. However, correspondingly, you will experience more hardships in the future. It will be even more severe. In serious cases, it will endanger your life. Grandfather, don't worry. Emperor Qingdao is just an emperor. He's not a prophet. Do you think I'm the destined person just because he said so? I'm just a little woman. I just want our family to be safe. I don't have that big of a wish to save everyone. Sima Yue actually did not believe what she said. Although she did not have any big ideas, it was hard for her not to believe in the fate that was right in front of her. However, if she wanted to use her own life to go against the heavens, she did not have the resolve to do so. That's the way you think. Listen well. Huang Yingying patted her hand. What others do has nothing to do with you. You just have to do your own thing. Yes, so you don't have to worry. Sima Yue held Huang Yingying's hand. There's nothing here. We can go out now. She had already obtained the biggest benefit. She even found the other half of Heaven's halberd. This trip could be said to be fruitful. They walked back the way they came. As they did not look around, they quickly returned to the surface. I didn't expect to be delayed for so many days. Let's go to the Lost Land now. After staying underground for half a month, she really missed the blue sky and white clouds. Yue, let's go to another place first before going to the Lost Land. Where are we going? Sima Lu Xian smiled. Our benefactor is nearby. We have to pay him a visit. Chapter 1602. Their benefactor? Sima Yu immediately thought of who he was talking about. Who else could be the benefactor of her father and daughter other than Yin Lin, who saved her when she was still in swaddling clothes? Divination is around here? She really didn't know where divination was. It's not that close, it'll take a few days. Sima Lu Xian said. A journey of a few days wasn't considered far in this vast continent. This place is so close to the divination temple. Why don't they know that the emperor's tomb is here? Sima Yue asked curiously. You'll have to ask him. Sima Lu Xian shrugged. He also felt that the divination should know that there was an imperial emperor's tomb here, but why didn't they come to look for it? You would have to ask them to find out. Since that's the case, let's go to divination. I miss Xiao Tong too. He helped a lot when we were able to save Dad. Sima Yue thought of Xiao Tong and wondered how he was doing now. Divination? Then we can find Master Yin Lin and ask him to help us calculate how to find Master when we reach the lost place. If he is willing to help, we can avoid many detours. Jiang Junxian also felt that this trip was feasible. Therefore, Sima Yue called Chongming out and rushed to divination that very night. On an inconspicuous mountain, there were many small courtyards located on the mountain. In the tallest courtyard, Yin Lin was talking to a disciple. Little Tong, Yin Lin called out softly. The apprentice came in from outside and bowed to him. Master. An important guest has arrived. Go down the mountain and welcome him. Yin Lin instructed. Yes. Little helper stood up and ran down the mountain excitedly. Since he was an honored guest with his status in the sect, it was not his turn to treat him. However, his master had asked him to come out and greet him, so it should be related to him. Thinking about it this way, who was it that called out? Sure enough, as soon as he reached the foot of the mountain, he saw the familiar figure of Chongming, as well as the person he missed very much on its back. Sima Yue and the others had just gotten down from the Chongming when the child came up to them and said with a smile, Sister Yue, Master said that an honored guest is coming, and it really is an honored guest. Sima Yue looked at Xiao Tong. They had not seen each other for more than 10 years, but he was still the same. It made her feel as if the past 10 years had not passed at all. Seems like Great Master Yin Lin already predicted our arrival. Sima Yue smiled. Since that's the case, let's pay him a visit. Is it convenient for you? She had heard that many reputable people had come. It was already good enough to be able to enter the mountain gate, let alone see Yin Lin in person. Master is discussing some matters with the disciples, but if we walk all the way, it should be about time. The little boy gestured towards them and then led the way to the mountain gate. The people guarding the gate did not stop them. Xiao Tong led them straight in and slowly walked up the mountain. Sima Yue looked at the mountain top. The top of the mountain was surrounded by clouds and mist. The mountain was covered in lush greenery and there was a gurgling stream between the mountains. There was also the crisp sound of birds chirping from time to time. The environment was quite good. As they walked up the mountain, Xiao Tong explained to them such as when this place was built, what kind of rare fish there were in the small lakes and so on. It was obvious that he was very excited. When the disciples passing by saw little helper acting like this, they were all a little surprised. Little junior brother usually looked quite steady. Who were these people? How could they make him so happy? Xiao Tong ignored those surprised gazes and led them up the stairs to the highest courtyard. This is Master's courtyard. Those people have not come out yet, so they should not have finished their discussion. Let's wait here. Xiao Tong led them to the square outside the courtyard. Sima Yue looked at the surrounding scenery. Other than these courtyards, there were no man-made buildings on the other mountains. Divination was really lucky. Han Miao Shuang thought so too. She asked Xiao Tong, divination has a high status in the continent. Why don't you build some grander buildings? Xiao Tong smiled and explained, Master said that we have already received God's pity, so we don't need to care about material comforts. Whether it's the main hall or the thatched cottage, they are all worldly possessions. We don't need them. Instead of thinking about those things, we should improve our inner self. This way we can cherish God's gift. But you don't have to make yourself like a monk. Han Miao Shuang felt that their lives were too tough. Master said that this way we can better maintain our nature. Xiao Tong said. Sima Yue nodded. Divinators could predict the future. They could know things that others did not know. They could calculate the vicissitudes of the world and the prosperity and fortune. If they didn't maintain their original self, once they lost themselves in the sea of material desires, the things they did could endanger others and even change the world. Divinators' lifespan was shorter than normal spirit masters. What was the use of wealth and glory? At this time a few people walked out of the courtyard. Xiao Tong bowed slightly to them and sent them off. Esteemed guests, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. Please come in. Yin Lin's voice was heard. Xiao Tong led them in. Sima Yue realized that there were no tables or chairs in the house. There were only praying mats. Did they really make it look like a temple? Everyone please don't mind. Yin Lin waved his hand at them and gestured for them to sit on the praying mats. Sima Yue realized that something was wrong when she sat down. The praying mat was a little hard. It was like sitting on a rock. It was also warm. I happen to be teaching them here, so I need to use warm jade as a support. There are tables and chairs in other places. Yin Lin explained. This warm jade is rare. I didn't expect to sit on a praying mat here. Just now I thought that your life here was tough. Now it seems that your life here is low-key luxurious. Sima Yue laughed. Hee, Yin Lin didn't explain. They were a sect after all. It was impossible that they didn't have anything good. Divination didn't promote luxurious life, but they still had the style. I haven't congratulated you. You must have gained a lot from your trip to the tomb, right? I knew it. You should know about that tomb. Sima Yue wasn't surprised at all. This trip wasn't bad. We gained some benefits, but there were also some doubts. I was just about to ask you to help me solve my doubts. Doubts will be solved one day. The reason why you are still doubtful now is that the day you find out the truth has yet to come. Yin Lin smiled. Sima Yue curled her lips. How different was this from the heavenly secrets that couldn't be revealed? Since you already knew that there was an emperor's tomb there, why didn't you investigate? Chapter 1603. Sima Yue asked what was on everyone's mind. We aren't fated with him. Even if we enter, we won't gain anything. Instead, there will be unnecessary sacrifices. Yin Lin indeed knew about the tomb. Only you guys have such a faint heart. Sima Xiuqi had a bone-deep respect for Divinator. If it were anyone else, knowing that there was an imperial emperor's mausoleum, they would have long gone to snatch the treasure, right? Just like last time, even though they knew that there was something fishy about the Qi spirit, there were still a lot of people who rushed forward and left their lives there. It was only because he was unable to resist the greed and lust in his heart. Then do you believe in the concept of the destined person? Sima Yue asked again. Yes and no. Yin Lin couldn't see, but his eyes didn't look empty. He looked at Sima Yue with a smile. Everyone has their own destiny. This is predestined by the heavens. Many people felt that they were rebelling against fate, but they didn't know that it was the path that fate had set for them. Everyone has their own things to do, and the so-called fated people only do things differently from others. But what if the destined person doesn't have the heart? Just like her, she didn't really want to go against the heavenly Tao. Even if it's unintentional, it's still possible to walk down that path. Yin Lin knew what Sima Yue was thinking. Since it's destined, it's inevitable. Sima Yue was silent. Would it really happen? Master Yin Lin, will Yue face a great calamity? Sima Lu Xian asked. If there's something, there's a price to pay. But sometimes death doesn't mean the end. Instead, it's a new beginning, an opportunity to break out of a situation. Yin Lin didn't answer directly. Instead, he gave the simulation some words. However, everyone could tell that there was a dead knot in her life. But this wasn't a bad ending. Instead, it was a new beginning. Sima Yue didn't care, but Sima Lu Xian and the others were scared out of their wits. They hurriedly asked if there was any way to resolve it. This is a cycle that cannot be changed. However, the final outcome will depend on her luck. Yin Lin said. In that case she might not die? Feng Zhixing asked. This, heaven's secret cannot be revealed. Yin Lin's words blocked all their questions. Sima Yu rolled her eyes at him in her heart. This divine Ji really said this sentence. Master Yin Lin's mind, where's his? Can you give us some pointers? Jiang Jun asked. Sustias? Yin Lin closed his eyes and meditated for a while. Sima Yu realized that the space between his eyebrows would move when he meditated. After a long while, he opened his eyes and said, It's the right time for you to find him. His Yue? And the others S? As this, S is they, then may I ask where Master is now? How can we find Master? Han Miao Shuang asked. S is there. S, there? Yin Lin said, seeing that they still wanted to ask, It's not good for you to say too much. It might even bring danger to them. Since he said that, no one dared to continue asking. Then they talked about other things. Chatting with Guruji was generally very enjoyable. At least, they could find common topics to talk about when they were full of knowledge and other people's little secrets. After chatting for a while, everyone felt that Master Yin Lin was not so cold. He was quite friendly. On the way back, Sima Yue heard Han Miao Shuang's description of Yin Lin. Wasn't it easy for Master Ji to trick them? Sister Yue, why don't you stay here for 2 more days? Master said that you don't have to rush. That means 2 more days won't matter. Little Helper said to Sima Yue. Okay. Sima Yue agreed readily. To be able to be a guest at divination was an honor that others envied. Little Helper saw that she agreed and immediately went to arrange a place for them to stay. He didn't bring them to the guest room. Instead, he asked people to clean up the small courtyard beside his courtyard. Then he brought them to visit divination for the next 2 days. Even though it was a visit, they finished visiting it in a day because this divination was too small. After staying for 2 days, Sima Yu and the group went to bid farewell to Yin Lin. Yin Lin only nodded slightly and said, It's good to hide your incompetence, but sometimes it's your talent that makes people look askance at you. After that, he let them leave. Little Helper sent Sima Yue to the mountain gate and watched her leave reluctantly. He didn't know when he would be able to see her again. Yin Lin stood at the top of the mountain and looked at Little Helper, who was a little disappointed. His emotions were as messy as the wind. He was conflicted. On one hand, he wanted Little Helper to interact with Sima Yue. That was his destiny and couldn't be changed. But on the other hand, he had his own selfish motives. He wanted Little Helper to avoid that calamity. But as he said to them before, was it really something that could be avoided? Fate always had its fixed path. In the end, it couldn't be avoided. What had already started, he couldn't change it. The only thing he could do was to try his best to remedy it at the end, even if he would lose his life. Little Helper sent Sima Yue off. He turned around and saw his master's lonely figure at the top of the mountain. This scene, until the end of his life, was still fresh in his memory when he looked back on this life. But at this time, he still didn't understand why his master had such an expression. Why did he look as if he was about to become immortal? Sima Yue and the group left in the Chongming. They went to the address given by Mao Sanquan. However, when they arrived at that place, what they saw was a vast ocean. Is the address given by Mao Sanquan correct? Feng Zhixing was a little dizzy when he saw the ocean. That's right. Director Mao said that a reed can cross the river and the sea. Lost Peng Lai, the future of God. We should have to cross the sea. Su Xiao said. But there's no boat here. Let's wait. Sima Lu Xian said, Father, when you went there, did you also go from here? Sima Xiuqi shook his head. We followed others there. We used their transportation array and went directly to the lost land. Speaking of which, we didn't know that it was an island because it was too big. Since Director Mao said it was here, there should be a boat. Let's wait and see. If it doesn't work, we'll think of a way to go there directly. Okay. They waited here for 10 days. Not to mention a boat, even a spirit beast didn't appear. Just when everyone was about to be disappointed, the sound of oars cutting through the water came from the fog. Chapter 1604. Previously, the sea was calm and tranquil, stretching as far as the eye could see. Where did the thick fog come from? However, a day ago, a thick fog slowly floated over from the surface of the sea, enveloping the entire surface of the sea. Even divine sense could not penetrate it. The fog was strange, but what was even stranger was the sound of oars in the fog. There was nothing just now. The sound of paddling was too sudden. Then an average-sized ship appeared. The boat slowly emerged from the thick fog. There were a few oars on the deck. The few of them used the oars to propel the boat over. Nearing the shore, the anchor was dropped and a group of men disembarked. He looked at Yue and the others who were waiting by the shore and left without saying anything. When most of the people on the deck had come down, a man wearing a sleeveless linen waistcoat appeared on the deck. His head was wrapped in a white cloth. When he saw Sima Yue and the rest, he frowned. "Why are there only so few of you? Forget it, do you want to cross the sea? Is this the ship that leads to the Lost Lands?" Huang Yingying asked. The man took out a cigarette from his belt and knocked it on the deck. When he heard her words, he glanced at her indifferently and said in a contemptuous tone, "Aren't you guys waiting here for my ship? Are you coming? If not, I'm leaving." From what he said, he should be going to the Lost Lands. Seeing that Sima Yue and the others were about to board the ship, the man added, "Oh right, 100,000 high-grade crystals per person, no bargaining." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched when they heard this. A ship fare of 100,000 top-grade crystals was too expensive. Fortunately, the Sima family was not short of money, especially Sima Yue. She had made a lot of money from the last auction. She boarded the ship and gave him 800,000 top-grade crystals. Only then did the man's attitude become much better. When he saw Sima Yue looking at him with a smile, he laughed and said, "Little girl, you're quite straightforward." In the past, those people, regardless of whether they had money or not, liked to complain to him that the ferry fare was too expensive. Otherwise, they would say that there were more people and they would give him a discount, which annoyed him greatly. "Uncle wants to ensure our safety and build such a ship. He must have spent a lot of effort and money. It's only right for him to collect the fees," Sima Yue said with a smile. "Ah, little girl, you're quite smart." The man laughed. "May I know how to address you?" Sima Yue saw that he was in a good mood and took the opportunity to get close to him. "You can call me Helmsman Tua." Helmsman Tua rarely liked a little girl and was willing to talk to her. "Then can I call you Uncle Tua?" "Up to you." It was just a form of address, so he didn't care. He waved at Feng Zhixing and the others and said, "You guys, come and paddle." Feng Zhixing and Sima Lu Xian looked at each other, thinking that they had misheard. "Yes, just the few of you guys." Helmsman Tua saw that they were still in a daze and knocked on the side of the ship with his pipe. "Why are you still in a daze? If you don't paddle, how can this ship sail?" "I'm not in a hurry, it doesn't matter if you don't want to go." "You didn't hire a crew? I have to pay them. Besides, my ship is so small, how many people can it seat if I hire a crew? Do you want to paddle or not? If you don't want to, then get off, but I won't refund the money," Helmsman Tua threatened. What else could they say? One by one they picked up the oars and paddled. The ship slowly sailed away from the shore. Helmsman Tua saw that they had started to paddle, so he sat on the stool next to Class A, took out his leaf cigarette, rolled it, inserted it into the cigarette but lit it with spiritual power and started to smoke. Sima Yue sat next to Helmsman Tua and asked, "Uncle Tua, when you came, did you also let the guests paddle? How long will my father and the others paddle?" "Don't worry, after this shallow sea area, we don't need to paddle anymore. It won't take long." Helmsman Tua snorted. "That's good." Sima Yue didn't mind his tone and continued to ask, "Uncle Tua, this is our first time going to the Lost Land, can you tell us about the situation there? What are you going to do there?" Helmsman Tua asked. "To find my master and teacher. They went there for me decades ago, but I haven't heard anything from them recently. We are worried about their safety, so we want to find them. But we are not familiar with the Lost Land, so we want to ask you about the situation there." Sima Yue said honestly. "Looking for people, I thought you were looking for treasures." Helmsman Tua said, "People who go to the Lost Land are all aiming for the treasures on the island. Tiske, if there are treasures on the island, why would outsiders like us have a chance? Some of them are just fools." Actually, it's not strange, from an outsider's point of view, a place related to the God clan is full of treasures, right? If you get a cultivation method, a divine weapon or a spiritual skill, it will be enough for you to use for a lifetime. Sima Yue said. "I see that your eyes are clear, aren't you curious about what you said?" "Of course I'm curious, I'm a common person, I love those treasures. But I know what I'm going to do. Compared to those treasures, my master and teacher are more important." Helmsman Tua glanced at Sima Yue. If she said that she wasn't interested, he wouldn't pay attention to her anymore. Because that kind of person was too fake, he didn't like people who said those things to please him. "Where did you say your master and the others went for you?" "Why?" "To be honest, there are some problems with my body. My master and the others heard that there is a solution there, so they came here when I was unconscious. When I woke up, they had already left for a long time." Thinking of Su Jin and Gulang's care for her, her heart felt warm. You've met two good masters. Helmsman Tua took out a small booklet and threw it at her. This is about some things on the island, you can take a look yourself. I'll charge 20,000 high-grade crystals for others, but since you're quite pleasing to the eye, I'll give you half the price, just give me 10,000. Sima Yue took the booklet and said with a smile, Uncle Tua, aren't you afraid that I won't give you the crystals if I take the book? Helmsman Tua glanced at her and didn't answer her, but his eyes were very clear. You dare not give it to me? Just throw it into the water. However, his eyes were very accurate. This girl in front of him was clearly someone with a lot of money and was the easiest to trick. This kind of person wouldn't do such a shameless thing. Or it could be said that no one dared to do such a shameless thing in front of him. Sima Yue was seen through by him and pouted. She took out 10,000 top-ranked crystals and gave it to him. Seeing her crystal card lose 10,000, her heart was bleeding, but when she heard Helmsman Tuo's words, she almost fell into the water. Chapter 1605. Helmsman Tua said, You can't take this booklet with you, you can only read it on the ship. You have to give it to me when you get off the ship. As for how much you can read, that's up to you. That was to say, he had charged her 10,000 top-grade crystals just for watching the show. Sima Yue clenched her fists and loosened them several times. She tried her best to suppress the anger in her heart. A good woman doesn't fight with a scoundrel. After she silently repeated it twice in her heart, she slowly calmed down and asked with a smile, Uncle Tua, you must be very rich, right? I'm a poor ghost. Helmsman Tua saw the calculation in her eyes and denied flatly. Sima Yue rolled her eyes at him, clearly expressing what she meant. Who would believe you? We will walk for more than half a month. You'd better hurry up. Helmsman Tua reminded. Sima Yue was sure that this guy was an unscrupulous businessman when she saw his smile. However, she didn't have time to talk to him about this right now. She held the booklet and went to the side to read it. Sima Xiuqi and the others paddled for half a day until their hands were sore. Finally, they heard the sound of amnesty. That's enough. You don't need to paddle anymore. Helmsman Tua said. Su Xiaoxiao and the others felt that the sound was like the sound of nature. Their tired bodies were liberated and they immediately lay down on the deck. Helmsman Tua had just finished smoking a stick of tobacco. He knocked the residue off the side of the boat and said to the several people who were paralyzed on the boat, You can't stand this much. Helmsman Tua, this is physical work. Feng Zhixing felt that his hands were no longer his own. With your physiques, you'll definitely be captured and treated like rabbits when you reach the island. Helmsman Tua glanced at them. His gaze was a bit wretched as if he was appraising them. Sima Yue happened to look up and saw his gaze. She put down her book and said, Uncle Tua, are you bored enough to do this? Usually I won't, but if you provoke me I still have a few old buyers. Helmsman Tua wasn't embarrassed after being exposed. Instead, he smiled wretchedly and his gaze became more wanton. Uncle Tua, do you know that you look like a procuress now? Sima Yue wasn't worried that they would be sold by him. If he had such thoughts he wouldn't show it now. Right now. Little girl, can't you say something nice? Helmsman Tua wasn't satisfied with the title of procuress. I've heard of another term before, but I don't know if you'll understand it if I tell you. What? Pimp. Sima Yue ignored him after she finished speaking and continued to bury her head in the information in her hands. Although she didn't know what? She didn't know the Yue read. A Yue, fortunately, she had the ability to read 10 lines at a glance. Otherwise, she might not have been able to finish reading before she got off the boat. Yudo Yue, and Yue Yun Yue here to cultivate Yuet? Yue? It was said that even the beggars on the streets could be supreme-level experts. Therefore, many outsiders also wanted to come here to cultivate, but the spiritual energy here was very strange. Without a specific cultivation method, it was impossible to improve one's strength. At most, one could only replenish the spiritual energy used up. Thinking about it, if it wasn't for the fact that only those with cultivation techniques could stay on the island, then any random person would be able to snatch cultivation resources from them. Initially, he thought that there would not be many people who were related to the celestial race. However, he did not expect that the entire Lost Lands was comparable to a first-rate city. There were many people and complicated relationships. There was also an unusual amount of scheming and plotting against each other, oppressing each other. When she saw the last page, she was stunned and subconsciously looked at Helmsman Tua at the bow of the ship. Little girl, if you stare at me like this, I will think that you are interested in me. Helmsman Tua leaned against the railing and basked in the sun. Even though he didn't open his eyes, he knew that Sima Yue was looking at him. Uncle Tua, is this map real? Sima Yue could not help but ask. It is real. Helmsman Tua did not even dare to lift his eyelids. Sima Yue swallowed her saliva and looked at him with a different gaze. Uncle Tua, you drew the map in such detail. Aren't you afraid that they will chase after you? I am just a helmsman. Who would chase after me for no reason? Helmsman Tua said disapprovingly, Little girl, how is it? Is my 10,000 top-grade crystals worth it? Hee, of course it is. Sima Yue calmed herself down. Uncle Tua is an honest person. Yue is indebted to you. Wait until you come back alive, then you can say this to me. Helmsman Tua said lightly. Uncle Tua, do you have this map in every booklet? Do you think it is possible? Sima Yue laughed. It was impossible. On the night after the booklet, there was a panoramic view of the island. Moreover, there was a map of all the forces in every position. What's more, there was even a map of every force. She estimated that if it was even more detailed, there would be a tunnel for them. With such a map in hand, wouldn't she be able to do whatever she wanted on this island? At the same time, she looked at Helmsman Tua with more respect. Would a person who had such a map be an ordinary helmsman? If those forces knew about it, they would chase after him to the ends of the earth. How could he be so leisurely helmsman here? However, Uncle Tua, why did you give me this map? I gave it to you. Why do you ask so many questions? Helmsman Tua finally opened his lazy eyes. He looked at Sima Yue with disbelief and said, If there must be a reason, it is that I like you. You have to take it as your charm. Sima Yue curled her lips. She did not believe in her charm. How could an old man like him be subdued by a little girl's charm? There must be some unspeakable secret. If he did not say anything, the answer would be the same even if she asked again. However, no matter what his purpose was, this map was very important to her. There are still 2 days before we arrive. Why don't you hurry up and look at it? Sima Yue laughed and began to look at the map. She engraved every mountain, every river, every street, and every house into her mind. Who knows which point could help her find her master and teacher? Helmsman Tua closed his eyes again. In this dilapidated boat, he was so leisurely that he did not fit in. However, none of them went to disturb him again. From the conversation between him and Yue, they could tell that he was not an ordinary helmsman. If they offended him, they would be thrown into the sea to feed the sharks. Another point confirmed their guess. Along the way, they did not encounter any attacks from sea beasts. Chapter 1606. If he wasn't strong, then he might have a high status. No matter which it was, the spirit beasts in the sea would avoid him. Helmsman Tua was very good at estimating the time. He said that they would arrive in 1 or 2 days, and the ship really arrived at the Lost Land the next evening, an island comparable to the mainland. Here we are. Give me the booklet. Helmsman Tua reached out his hand to Sima Yue. Sima Yue had already memorized the entire map. When she saw him reaching out for it, she returned the booklet to him. He also gave him a few jars of good wine. I heard that boatmen drink a little wine. This is the wine that I brewed. Take it as a thank you gift to Uncle Tua. Helmsman Tua didn't stand on ceremony. He picked up a jug and opened the seal. A burst of wine fragrance wafted out. He took a big gulp and the spicy feeling spread throughout his body. This wine is not bad, it's strong enough. Helmsman Tua kept all the wine into his interspatial ring and said to Sima Yue, Little girl, I won't take advantage of you. There is an old monster on Rabbit Ear Mountain. You have to be careful when you go there. If you can't handle it, just tell me the name of Helmsman Tua. They had mentioned Rabbit Ear Mountain when they were on the boat, so it was not surprising that he knew where they were going. Sima Yue grinned. Uncle Tua, you're so sincere. If there's any danger later, I'll definitely tell them your name. If we meet again, you have to prepare some more wine like this for me. Helmsman Tua requested. No problem. There were plenty of them in the Spirit Pagoda, but taking out too many at once wasn't as tempting. In that case, he would give it to her the next time they met. With the map in their heads, they didn't go to Rabbit Ear Mountain immediately after they got off the ship. Instead, they went to the nearby teleportation portal and went straight to Lee City, which was the nearest city, and found an inn to rest. What Yue didn't know was that not long after they left, a group of people came to the ferry. When they saw Helmsman Tua dressed as a helmsman, the corners of their eyes twitched. They stepped forward and knelt down together. Master, you're finally back. What's wrong? I just escorted a guest and you miss me? Helmsman Tua's manner changed. The cunning helmsman immediately turned into a rich young master. Master, a few family heads have come to look for you several times. If you don't appear, they will probably quarrel. The leader explained. Those old fellows have nothing to do all day long. One day I will make them my helmsmen. Helmsman Tua said. The people on the ground lowered their heads even more, hoping that their master would not let them be the boatmen. It was really too degrading. Let's go back. I want to see how much they're going to argue. He disembarked from the ship, walked a few steps, and ordered the person kneeling at the back, "Send someone to pay close attention to the guest I brought back." "Master, is there something suspicious about their identities? I feel that with their arrival the lost island will become lively. Why would I miss such a good show?" Helmsman Tua said and left with a smile. His intuition had always been accurate. That girl would definitely give him a surprise. "Master," the helmsman disappeared. "Who will be sent to pick up those people? I heard that Northern Du clan, Eastern Lai clan and Ouyang clan are already rushing over. What's the hurry? That old fellow drank my 1,000 years drunk and is now sleeping soundly. When he wakes up he will naturally come back to take over the helm. Then those people from the hidden clan? Just wait. Master, do you have to be so willful?" However, no one dared to say this out loud. Who knew what method their master would use to punish them? A group of people followed Helmsman Tua and left the ferry. The person who was pointed out by him left the group and chased after Sima Yue. Sima Yue rested in the inn for a while before lying down on the bed. She began to recall the information she received. The Lost Island had thousands of big and small villages and hundreds of cities. They surrounded the four main cities like stars surrounding the moon: Phoenix City, White Tiger City, Azure Dragon City and Black Tortoise City. These four main cities also surrounded the central city, Void City. It was said that Void City was just like its name. It did not even have a city wall or any protective measures. However, no one dared to create trouble there because the owner of the Lost Island lived there. If anyone dared to create trouble there was only one outcome: disappearing. Perhaps he had been banished or perhaps he had been killed. No matter what, the troublemaker never appeared on the island again. It was said that the owner of the island was a descendant of the Divine Clan. He had an extraordinary status and absolute power on the island. Sima Yue did not know if there were any other descendants of the Divine Clan other than the Feng people. However, it was true that the owner of the island had power and influence. As for those who claimed to have connections with the Divine Clan, they all lived in the four main cities. Those who were not talented or had fallen families would live in the small cities and villages. She would ask Feng Xiang later on. She enlarged the map in her mind and began to look for the location of Rabbit Ear Mountain. Fortunately, her mental strength was strong enough to find Rabbit Ear Mountain in the densely packed terrain. However, she was speechless when she saw the distance. She thought that since Yin Lin asked them to go to Rabbit Ear Mountain after reaching the island, the mountain should not be far from their current location. Who knew that it was 108,000 miles away? She sighed, closed her eyes and rested. She could only go to Rabbit Ear Mountain to look for an opportunity after she had rested enough. She could not guess what the opportunity was. At this moment she wanted to complain about the actions of those charlatans who used the phrase "heaven's secrets cannot be revealed" to brush people off. His heart was neither up nor down and he felt very uncomfortable. After resting in the small city for 2 days, they began to rush towards Rabbit Ear Mountain. After going through several teleportation portals and flying beasts for a few days, they finally arrived at the vicinity of Rabbit Ear Mountain. "Grandpa, Grandma, I heard that Rabbit Ear Mountain is very dangerous. The sky is already dark today. Let's find a place to rest and enter the mountain tomorrow." Okay. After rushing for so many days, everyone was a little tired. She had the strongest mental strength and seemed to be in good spirits. While everyone was resting, she went out and walked around. She realized that the people on the island were more arrogant and looked down on outsiders. However, because she was not the only outsider, she was not targeted. However, she heard from those people that something big happened on the island. That was why there were so many outsiders. She did not know what happened that caused so many outsiders to come to this island that did not have much contact with the outside world. She walked one round and inquired about some matters regarding Rabbit Ear Mountain from others. Seeing that she was an outsider, they did not bother about her. In the end, they told her some unimportant information for the sake of money. It was nothing more than where was more dangerous, where there were more medicinal herbs and so on. Chapter 1607. Love. Sima Yue thought that there wouldn't be many people rushing towards Rabbit Ear Mountain like them. However, she didn't expect to see a group of people leaving the city and heading towards Rabbit Ear Mountain as soon as she arrived at the city gate. Since they weren't familiar with the environment, they discussed for a moment and decided to find someone to accompany them. In the end, this glorious and difficult task fell on Sima Yue and Han Miao Shuang. Because everyone agreed with Feng Zhixing's point of view, Yu was born with affinity, plus she and Han Miao Shuang were two great beauties, it was easy to get into relationships with others. Sima Yue rolled her eyes. How could she do that? However, the two of them resigned themselves to their fate and began to search for their target. He didn't want women in his entourage. He also didn't want people who looked too cunning. He also didn't want people who were too smart. Perhaps, before he could get any information out of them, someone else might get the information out of them. After looking around, they finally chose a group that seemed to have only a dozen people. They were dressed plainly and looked very deceptive. They were discussing something under a big tree outside the city. All of them looked worried. Excuse me, big brother. May I know which direction is the Rabbit Ear Mountain? Sima Yue pulled Han Miao Shuang over and asked with a smile. Their conversation was interrupted, but they were not angry. They looked at the two of them and pointed in the direction of Rabbit Ear Mountain. Follow the northeast direction and fly for 2 days. A round-looking man gave them the specific route and time. 2 days? Didn't you say that it would only take 1 day? Sima Yue frowned. Who gave you a day's time? When I was at the inn, I asked one of my roommates. You've been fooled by him. The round-faced man sized up the two of them. You're not from the island, are you? No wonder he was fooled. Those people like to do such things when they have nothing better to do. Ah. After walking for a day, you didn't reach the Rabbit Ear Mountain, but the Broken Cliff Mountain. It's just an abandoned mountain with nothing there. Sima Yue and Han Miao Shuang's faces were filled with shock and disbelief. They didn't expect to be cheated by others. To be honest, we are indeed not from the island. We came to Rabbit Ear Mountain because we heard that there was a herb that we needed. I didn't expect that we would be cheated. Sima Yue's words were half true. She had indeed heard from others that it would only take a day. However, with the map in hand, she knew the distance to Rabbit Ear Mountain. That was why she could tell at a glance that the person who gave her directions was not telling the truth. Then you should be here to participate in the Crimson Pearl Convention, right? The chubby man hesitated for a moment and said, We are going to Rabbit Ear Mountain too. You can come with us, but we can only bring you to the front of the mountain. We cannot enter the mountain with you. Granduncle. The others called out anxiously. Granduncle, we still have things to do. What if it's just leading the way? What can happen? Fatty's words carried weight. When he agreed, the others didn't dare to have any objections. All right, success or failure will be decided today. If the heavens really want our Guo family to die, it won't be affected just by leading the way. Another man in white said. The two most influential people had already spoken. What else could they say? Sima Yue could tell that these people weren't in a good situation. They wanted to go to Rabbit Ear Mountain to find something to turn things around. To be able to extend a helping hand to outsiders at this time, it showed that these people's character was not bad. Uncle, how should I address you? I am Guinda. You can call me Uncle Gua. Fatty smiled and pointed to the man in white. This is my nephew, Gua XM. Hello Uncle Gua, hello big brother Gua. Sima Yue and Han Miao Shuang bowed to the two of them. I'm Sima Yue. This is my senior sister, Han Miao Shuang. That is my grandpa, grandma, father and the others. She waved to the few of them from afar. After they walked over, she introduced them to each other. Guinda saw that they looked familiar and didn't ask much. He called out to his people, It's useless to talk about these now. We will know when we reach Rabbit Ear Mountain. Let's go. The Guo family called out their flying beast. Sima Yue saw that it was strong but not fast. Uncle Guo, we are in a rush. My flying beast is faster and bigger. If you don't mind, why don't you come with us? Sima Yue called out Chongming. Seeing Chongming's real body, Guinda was surprised. But he quickly regained his senses and said, Since you are in a rush, we will follow you. All right then. Please go ahead. Sima Yue brought everyone to Chongming's back and let it fly towards the northeast direction. Along the way, Sima Yue and the rest chatted about unimportant things with Guinda. They also talked about their own things to get closer to each other. When they talked about how they were charged 800,000 top-grade crystals for the boat ride, the Guo family treated them as spendthrifts. Why isn't it 10,000 per person? Sima Yue asked when she saw them smiling at her. No, this boatman's charges are very strange. The standards are different, but there has never been a situation where he charged 100,000 per person. Guinda smiled until his eyes could not be seen. Sima Yue was stunned. So she was cheated? Seeing her dumbfounded expression, the Guo family members all laughed. But it wasn't the kind of laughter that mocked a fool. They just felt that her expression when she realized she was cheated was a little cute. Can the boatman charge as he pleases? Won't people make a fuss if he charges too much? Han Miao Shuang asked. Hee, everyone knows the boatman's identity. Who dares to make a fuss with him? Guaxian laughed. Sima Yue said in her heart. She knew that the boatman's identity wasn't low. He really had a background. What's his identity? He has a good relationship with the island master. Don't be fooled by his fat head and big ears. He's very powerful. With both power and background, who would dare to make a fuss? That's true. With these two things he can do whatever he wants. No, you said that the boatman is fat? Isn't he a strong man? Sima Yue asked. A strong man? Are you mistaken? The Guo family looked at her strangely. Boatman Tuo's figure can't be considered fat, right? Han Miao Shuang said doubtfully. Boatman Tuo? The boatman that ferried you is surnamed Tuo? That's right. He told us to call him Boatman Tuo. Why isn't it? That boatman's surname isn't Tuo. You must have been cheated by someone. Guinda laughed. No wonder they were cheated. This was a one-time deal. Even if they realized they were cheated, they wouldn't be able to find the person to settle the score. Sima Yue didn't think so much. Just from the map that he gave her, she knew that this person's identity wasn't ordinary. Chapter 1608. Wasn't it just a few 100,000 crystal stones? She really didn't care as long as those things were useful. Thinking of this, she instantly felt like she was a rich and overbearing bag. Yue, since you can take out so many crystals, it means that you don't lack that little bit. Since that's the case, you'd better not go back to look for him. To be able to hang out with someone like the boatman and be able to control his ship, he definitely isn't an ordinary person. Guinda said earnestly. Sima Yue understood that he was afraid that if she went back to argue with helmsman Tuo, she would offend someone powerful. In the end, the gains would not make up for the losses. Uncle Gua, I understand. She smiled at Guinda and thought that she had a good eye for people. The people she chose were really good. Then, Sima Yue asked other questions about Rabbit Ear Mountain, such as where were the herbs and so on. The Gua family's answer was similar to what she had heard before. At this point, Guinda could not help but sigh. Uncle Gua, are you guys in trouble? Sima Yue asked. Seeing that the Gua family was looking at her warily, she scratched the back of her ear and said, You guys looked so worried before, and now you're sighing at the mention of North Mountain. That's why I wanted to ask. If there's anything inconvenient, you don't have to tell me. Anyway, this matter had nothing to do with her, so it wouldn't affect her whether she said it or not. She only wanted to ask because she saw that they were nice people. No, if he said it, he might be soft-hearted and go to help. When she thought of this, she actually hoped that the other party would stop talking. Sigh. Guinda sighed again. It's not that we don't want to tell you, but there's no point in telling you. Instead, it will only bring you more trouble. Once we reach the Rabbit Ear Mountain, all of you can just separate from us and the trouble will naturally not follow you. His words aroused the sympathy of Han Miao Shuang and the others. I heard you guys talking about extermination. Is it that serious? The Guo family members were all silent. Han Miao Shuang also knew that she had asked something she shouldn't have and was a little embarrassed. The originally harmonious atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. Actually, it's not a big deal. This is a family matter. If we talk about it, it will only bring you trouble. Guaxen smiled. However, this might also be an opportunity for us, so it's not that serious. That's good. Sima Yue then asked a few other questions to cover up what happened just now. Halcyon's speed was extremely fast. If it wasn't for the fact that Sima Yue wanted him to slow down, they would only need a day to reach Rabbit Ear Mountain. Even so, the Guo family was still surprised by Chongming's speed. Sima Yue did not explain further. After arriving at Rabbit Ear Mountain, the Guo family left after exchanging a few words. These people are not bad. They left in such a hurry because they were afraid of bringing trouble to us. Huang Yingying said with some emotion. They could tell that the Guo family was not a big family. It was just a small family living at the end of the island. According to the information Yue had read, a family like the Guo family had to rely on a more powerful family. Thinking of this, she sighed. As the saying goes, wherever there are people, there will be Jianghu. Even a place like the Lost Lands was not spared. It's indeed not bad. I'll let the Scarlet Bees follow them. If it's a small matter, we'll help if we can. If it affects the purpose of this trip. Sima Yue did not finish her sentence, but everyone understood. They came here to look for their master and teacher. Nothing should affect their purpose. Master Yin Lin only asked us to come to Rabbit Ear Mountain to look for an opportunity, but he didn't say what it was. What should we do? Su Xiao looked at Sima Yue. She had the most contact with Yin Lin, so she might understand what he meant. Sima Yue recalled the last time they went to Ghost City. The opportunity Xiao Tong mentioned was Mu Si. Was it to look for a person this time? She shook her head, indicating that she did not know. Since you don't know, let's just walk around. Anyway, Master Yin Lin said that it's here. I think we'll meet him eventually. Sima Lu Xian said. Didn't he say that there are many herbs here? Since it's the Lost Lands, there should be different herbs here. Since we have nothing to do, why not look around? Feng Zhixing said. All right. Everyone was not familiar with this place, so the group of people wandered around the mountain. Occasionally they would meet some people who came here to train or to look for treasures. However, they did not see the Guo family. Perhaps everyone was paying attention to the Guo family, so they were not too far away from the Guo family. However, they were brought to the depths of Rabbit Ear Mountain unknowingly. Sima Yue saw that the grass was getting thicker and thicker, and the spirit herbs they obtained were getting older. Sima Yue knew that they were in the depths of the mountain. She frowned slightly when she thought of what Helmsman Tua said about an old monster living here. Perhaps it was because everyone knew about this, so very few people came here and left these spirit herbs behind. The Guo family had always been in front of them, which meant that they were deeper in than them. What did they want that they needed to come to such a dangerous place? Suddenly she stopped in her tracks and frowned tightly. Yue, did something happen to the Guo family? Wang Yingying asked. Sima Yue nodded and said, the Guo family fought with someone. It seems that they saved a young man. The other party is stronger than them. She explained the entire situation in 2 short sentences. The Guo family's strength was not low outside, but on this island, it was not enough. How are they compared to us? If we call the others, there should be no problem. Sima Yue said. The others? Didn't Xiaoxi's father send some people to stay with me? I brought them here. Yes, to protect Xiaoxi's safety. Sima Yue smiled wickedly. Xiaoxi, who was in the spirit pagoda, heard this and rolled his eyes at her. This person who used her position for personal gain, she did not play with him anymore. She only knew how to throw him into the spirit pagoda. Fortunately, he was now familiar with the beasts and was not as clingy as before. When she needed him to leave, he could find something to play with in the spirit pagoda. Most importantly, he and Little Roar could turn the spirit pagoda upside down. If it were not for Qi Yen and the others keeping watch, who knew what would have happened? The first time she saw their results, she could not help but facepalm. It was really... She could not bear to hit Xiaoxi. The most important thing was that she could not hit him. If his father found out, he would settle the score with her. Thus, in the end, she hung Little Roar up and hit him a few times, causing him to feel indignant. The 2 of them were the ones who caused trouble, but in the end he was the only one who was punished. It was not fair, Wu. Chapter 1609. In order to ensure Little Lucky's safety, Supreme Fifth Spirit Senior had left behind a group of ancient spiritual beasts. Before he left, Sima Yue had brought them all into her little realm. However, she could not order those old fellows around. Thus she called Little Lucky out. At first, Xiaoxi was still a little arrogant. She usually didn't play with her, but now that she was begging her, she was determined to ignore her. However, he couldn't resist the closeness he felt towards her. After obtaining her promise to let him follow them, he asked her to summon the ancient spirit beasts and ordered them to save the people. These ancient spirit beasts were not as protective of Little Lucky as the hidden demonic beast. As long as Little Lucky's life was not in danger, they would not appear. The order they received was to not only protect Little Lucky, but also to listen to him. Now that Little Lucky had ordered them to save her, they naturally did not dare to delay. Without stopping, they rushed to the place Sima Yue had mentioned. Sima Yue and the rest did not stop as well. They followed suit. By the time they arrived, the Guo family was already heavily injured and lying on the ground. A black-clothed man stood beside Guinda and stepped on his chest. He sneered, Guinda, you didn't think that there would be a day when you would be stepped on by me, right? Guinda was already heavily injured, and after being stepped on by that person he lost half of his life. He grabbed the man's feet with both hands. He couldn't move them away, but at least it would be better. Tang Fei, don't be too happy yet. You dare to chase after young master? Aren't you afraid of being exterminated? Cough cough. Before he could finish his sentence, he choked on the surging blood and started coughing non-stop. Young master? This bastard? He's not worthy. Tang Fei glanced at the youth lying not too far away and said, At this time, I'm not afraid to tell you that this old man is under orders from above. As long as we kill this bastard, not only will we be exempt from the taxes, We will also be able to participate in the Crimson Pearl Convention. Without him, the person above him would be the young master, the future patriarch. If I follow him, will my Tang family fall into ruin? On the other hand, your Guo family has offended the higher-ups. Just wait for your family to be exterminated. Tang Fei and his subordinates all laughed. They were very arrogant and conceited. The youth on the ground clenched his fists, his face full of resentment and unwillingness. Guiyinda, although your Guo family is finished this time, you don't have to die today. You can only blame yourselves for being a busybody and wanting to save this person. Let me tell you, none of you are going to escape today. Tang Fei added more strength to his leg. Tang Fei, stop. The youth angrily condensed his spirit energy to attack Tang Fei, but he was also an arrow at the end of its flight, and his attack was easily broken by Tang Fei. Bastard, don't worry. Once I'm done with him, I'll send you on your way. Tang Fei laughed. Tang Fei, if I don't die today, I will definitely slaughter your entire Tang family. The youth said hatefully. I'm so scared. Tang Fei said in a strange tone before sending Guiyinda flying with a kick. He came to the youth's side and said, Tao Yi-Xian, do you still think you're the young master of the Tao family? You're just a bastard from God knows where. How dare you call me that? Didn't you want to slaughter my entire family? Then I'll send you to hell today. After he finished speaking, he condensed his spirit energy in his hand and attacked the person on the ground. Sima Yue secretly cursed. The ancient spirit beast was still so far away from them, how could they save that child? Han Miao Shuang knew that Sima Yue had always been by her side. Before she could sense that she was gone, she saw her suddenly appear beside Tang Fei. She only saw her silently appear and send Tang Fei flying with a palm strike. She grabbed the youth on the ground and retreated 10 meters to Guiyinda's side. Seeing the person who suddenly appeared, both parties were stunned. The Guo family reacted first and said excitedly, You a young lady. Why are you here? Tang Fei secretly cursed when he heard that. The Guo family and this person obviously knew each other. If she saved Tao Yi-Xian, then they would all be finished. However, seeing that she was alone and wasn't very powerful, his anxious heart calmed down. Young lady, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Be careful not to lose your little life. Tang Fei threatened. Sima Yue was still carrying Tao Yi-Xian in her hands. When she saw how dirty he was, her eyebrows furrowed slightly. She took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth before releasing him. She let him sit in front of Guiyinda. As for her, she stood steadily in front of the two of them. This posture was clearly telling Tang Fei that she had saved these two people. Tang Fei originally thought that Sima Yue was young and inexperienced. She had come to help because she was young and ignorant and had given in after being scared. However, he didn't expect that she would completely ignore him and even give Tao Yi-Xian a pill to eat. She didn't even put him in her eyes. Tao Yi-Xian looked at Sima Yue's back. He didn't know why, but his usually cold eyes were actually a little wet. Ever since he was young, not many people had stood in his way. There had only been 2 women. One of them was his mother who had died protecting him, and the other was this stranger in front of him. Sima Yue stared at Tang Fei for a while. That fearless look, that disdainful look in her eyes really stunned him. He couldn't help but take a step back. Uncle Guo, should we leave them alive or should we just kill them? Sima Yue turned her head to ask. Guiyinda never thought that helping them lead the way out of the kindness of his heart would lead to a reversal in today's hopeless situation. He glanced at Tao Yi-Xian and said to her, Leave them alive for now. The young master may have some questions to ask him. Sima Yue nodded and said, Did you hear that? Tao Yi-Xian was stunned. Could it be that she didn't plan on doing it herself? Just as she spoke, several figures rushed out from behind and quickly took down the Tang family members. This scene caused the Guo family members to stare in shock. Wasn't this a little too easy? The ancient spiritual beasts had all retracted their auras so that they looked no different from normal transformed beasts. No one would have thought that they were ancient spiritual beasts. Who are you people? How dare you touch my Tang family? Tang Fei refused to give up and wanted to use his family name to scare her. Sima Yue didn't know who this Tang family was. Perhaps it was because they were too young, so they hadn't received Helmsman Tuo's pamphlet. Since that was the case, there was nothing for him to be afraid of. You guys went too easy on them. They still have the energy to make a ruckus. Little Lucky jumped onto Sima Yue's shoulder and pointed at Tang Fei as he cried out. Those ancient spirit beasts understood what he meant and punched him in the stomach again. How could Tang Fei take a punch from an ancient spiritual beast? He couldn't even cry out before he fainted. When the others saw what happened to him, they couldn't help but purse their lips. They didn't think that she was this simple and violent. The remaining people ran over and fed the Guo family members pills so that they could heal their wounds first. If there were any other problems they could talk about it later. She then began to size up Tao Yixian. Handsome features, large eyes, long eyelashes, and a deep gaze that sucked people in. Chapter 16:10. Tao Yixian felt a little embarrassed when he saw Sima Yue sizing him up. It wasn't because he wasn't used to being stared at, but he was afraid that she would see through his emotions. Sima Yue noticed his evasive gaze and squatted in front of him asking, "Little brother, how old are you?" It was a very normal question, but it made the other party blush. He turned his head to the side and ignored her. This little guy has quite a temper. Han Miao Shuang walked over. "Hey little guy, we're your saviors. You can't be so arrogant, understand? Yue, don't be like this. Young master is not a child." Guiyinda had already eaten the pill and was able to sit up. When he saw them talking to Tao Yixian like this, he spoke up. "Not a child? Then why does he look like a 10-year-old child?" Sima Yue reached out and pinched his face. There was no human skin mask or anything like that. It was indeed the body of a young man. Tao Yixian wanted to resist, but because his injuries were too severe, he couldn't. Guiyinda's expression changed and he explained, "It's like this, young master was plotted against by them, that's why he became like this. Young master is already over 400 years old." Sima Yue's hand froze in the air. Seeing Tao Yixuan's sparkling eyes, she giggled, "You're really not a kid." Tao Yixian didn't want to pay attention to her. However, the area where she had pinched him felt a burning sensation on his face. Fortunately, his face was covered in dust, so nothing could be seen. Han Miao Shuang looked at Tao Yixian curiously. What made him turn from an adult into a child? Guiyinda shook his head. He didn't know either. They turned their gazes towards Tao Yixian. Alright, this proud little fellow would definitely not tell them anything. By the way, Yue, why are you here? Guiyinda changed the topic to make the atmosphere less awkward. Oh, didn't you say that there are many medicinal herbs in the North Mountain? We came here to look for herbs and unknowingly we ended up here. Later on, I heard sounds of fighting, so I came over to take a look. I didn't expect it to be you guys, Sima Yue explained half-truthfully. They had indeed found some medicinal herbs along the way, so it wasn't a lie. I didn't expect you to be so powerful. We were blind before. I wonder who these benefactors are, Guaxian said. They looked at the ancient spiritual beasts with strange expressions. He had never seen these people before, so he had no idea where they came from. They are his bodyguards. Sima Yue pointed at little Lucky. We met them on the way here. The Guo family obviously didn't believe her words. If they had met on the way, why would they be so close to her? Obviously they had known each other for a long time. But if she didn't say anything, they couldn't ask. She just wanted to know that she had saved them. Guo Jiaming will always remember your kindness in saving my life. Guiyinda struggled to get up and wanted to salute them. Uncle Guo, you're seriously injured. Don't move. Sima Yue said, Kid, why aren't you reacting at all? In any case, I saved your life just now. You saved me for a moment, but you can't. Tao Yixian suddenly stopped and said, Thank you. She had saved him, so even if he wanted to give up on himself, what did it have to do with her? Why did he have to implicate her? Sima Yue looked at him and grabbed his wrist. He wanted to take it back but found that he couldn't. Yue. Guiyinda looked at her worriedly. Sima Yue finally let go of his hand after a while. She stood up and took 2 steps back, crossing her arms as she looked at him, saying, You look like you've been poisoned, right? This kind of poison isn't bad either. It can make you return to your youth, don't you think? Tao Yixian raised his head in shock and looked at her in disbelief. She actually knew that he was in this state because he had been poisoned. Then did that mean that she could cure the poison as well? I can't cure your poison right now, Sima Yue said honestly. The light in Tao Yixian's eyes dimmed. Even she couldn't do anything about it. Guiyinda looked at Sima Yue from the side. Miss Yue, I know that you're very capable. Please save the young master. She could tell at a glance that Tao Yixian had been poisoned, so in their eyes she was very powerful. Yu was frightened by his kneeling. She had lived for so long, but no one had ever knelt before her. She went over to help him up, saying, Uncle Guo, don't be like this. Yu, the young master is in a lot of pain. Please save him. Guiyinda stood up with the help of her strength, holding onto her hand without letting go. Uncle Guo, it's not that I don't want to save him, but that I really can't. Sima Yue said, The poison he's been poisoned with is called the 100 insects and 100 grass pill. It's made from 100 different poisons and 100 different poisonous insects. If you want to cure the poison, you have to know what these 100 poisons and poisonous insects are. If you make a mistake, then it won't be an antidote but a poison. Guindo was shocked by this answer. He was so stunned that he couldn't say anything. Tao Yishen's eyes flashed with despair as he sat on the ground. How much longer can the young master live? Guixian asked. That depends on his body. The deeper the poison, the smaller his body will become. When his body returns to its infantile state, that will be the end. Sima Yue said, looking at him like this, I think he'll be able to hold on for 1 or 2 years. 1 or 2 years? To a normal person that wasn't a short time, but to a cultivator wasn't that just the blink of an eye? Everyone's faces were filled with despair. You guys don't have to be like this, right? Feeling as if everyone's lives had been sucked out, Sima Yue couldn't help but look up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. She gritted her teeth and said, actually, it's not like there's no way. What way? Guixian asked. The person who made this poison either has the antidote or the recipe for the antidote. As long as we can get our hands on it, it'll be fine. Sima Yue said, the possibility of this poison being made is too high. If he can't remember which poisonous insects and plants he used and accidentally gets poisoned, he'll definitely die. In order to prevent this possibility, they'll leave behind the antidote. As long as you know who poisoned him and get your hands on the antidote, it'll be fine. As long as he doesn't return to his infantile state, it'll be fine. She thought that they would be happy after she said that, but after she finished speaking, everyone went silent. What's wrong? Don't tell me that person is already dead? If that was the case, then this person really couldn't be saved. That's not it. Seeing that she misunderstood, Guixian explained, it's just that this person isn't easy to meet. As long as he's not dead, then there's hope. Why are all of you crying? Han Miao Shuang came over and asked. Really? Sigh. Sima Yue saw their expressions and understood. Although the person who poisoned him was still alive, he was probably as good as dead. Before she could ask what happened, a sudden aura shrouded them. Sima Yue felt the aura coming towards her. Chapter 16:11. That aura only swept over them roughly, but their backs were drenched in cold sweat. First message of love-death seemed to be just a matter of flipping his hand. Fortunately, that aura had no intention of killing them, so it disappeared in an instant. Everyone felt like they had just survived a disaster. However, before they could relax, they felt the aura closing in. After a few breaths, a woman dressed entirely in white appeared in front of them. She had snow-white skin, snow-white hair, snow-white clothes, and snow-white shoes. When Sima Yue saw her, she wondered if this person was the Snow Lady. Other than her, no one else had the courage to look at this woman. Sima Yue looked at her. She could not sense any aura from her as she stood there, but people like her were the scariest. This should be the old monster mentioned by Helmsman Tua, right? The woman looked at Xiao Shi, who was in Sima Yue's arms, and wanted to grab him. However, Sima Yue hugged him and took 2 steps back. Greetings, senior. Sima Yue carried little Lucky and bowed to the woman. Only then did the woman notice Sima Yue. Who are you? What does it have to do with you? My name is Sima Yue. Xiao Shi is the son of an old friend of mine. Old friend? Ancient spirit beasts have just appeared in the world and they're already old friends with you? The woman's voice was faint, but it was imposing without being angry. Yes. Sima Yue was afraid, but she did not show it on her face. If they really fought, he didn't know who would be more powerful, her or the magical beast guarding the space. I've taken a fancy to this little fellow. Leave him to me. The woman said. I'm sorry, senior. Little Lucky's father gave it to me. I can't give it to you. Sima Yue said. You dare to disobey my orders? Aren't you afraid I'll kill you? The woman waved her hand and Sima Yue felt a strong suction force pulling her towards her. The woman grabbed her by the throat. Yue, junior sister. Sima Lu Xian and the others wanted to come over, but they were stopped by the woman's gaze. They were unable to move. When Xiao Shi saw how the woman dealt with Sima Yue, he became anxious and quickly attacked the woman. They were already close to each other and little Lucky was extremely fast. Before anyone could react, he was already in the woman's hand. Don't hurt him. Sima Yue's eyes were filled with fear. If something happened to little Lucky, how was she going to explain it to Supreme Fifth Spirit Senior? Senior, Sima Yue, Sima Yue, Sima Yue, Sima Yue. Sima Yue, Sima Yue, Sima Yue, Sima Yue. Senior, I know that you like Lil Lucky. However, you do not wish to possess him. If you kill me, little Lucky will definitely ignore you. Sima Yu said slowly. You know what I'm thinking? Senior, there's no lust in your eyes, only curiosity. So I think that you just want to understand the ancient spirit beast, but you don't want to possess it. Am I right? Sima Yue analyzed. What a clever girl. The woman let go of Sima Yue. Sima Yue was finally able to breathe properly. Everyone's hearts also settled down. Thank you, Senior, for not killing me. Sima Yue said gratefully. You're so sure that I won't kill you? When we came here, we met a helmsman with the surname Tua. He said that when we reach Rabbit Ear Mountain, if we meet Senior, we can just say that he is helmsman Tua. I think that he can be so sure, not because he is stronger than you, but because you are not a bloodthirsty person. Sima Yue said. Helmsman Tua? When the woman heard this name, her emotions changed slightly. Forget it, since he wants to protect someone, I'll give him this face. Lend this little guy to me to play with for 2 days, I'll return it in 10 days. After speaking, she didn't care about Sima Yue and the rest reaction and left with little Lucky. Everyone looked at her back view unwillingly. Yue, are you okay? Sima Lu Xian went forward and saw the purplish-green marks on her neck. He was very worried. Father, I'm fine. Sima Yue grabbed his hand, not letting him look at her wounds. What do we do now? An ancient spirit beast asked. Wait. Sima Yue said one word and didn't speak anymore. She kept looking at the direction where the woman left. The others didn't have any other ideas. That woman was so powerful, who would dare to snatch him? Since she said that she would return little Lucky in 10 days, they could only hope that she would keep her promise. For the first time, she could only watch as things developed and she couldn't do anything. She clenched her hands tightly. If that woman really dared to do anything to little Lucky, she would definitely think of a way to make that magical beast take action. If she was only willing to take action when she was in a life-and-death situation. She stood there for 2 days, and in these 2 days, no matter who spoke to her, she ignored them. Since she said that it would take 10 days, it's useless for you to just stand there. Come and rest for a while. Feng Zhixing said with heartache. He originally thought that it was useless, but she moved her body and turned to look at them. It was good that she had a reaction. Junior sister, you've been standing there for 2 days. Come and rest for a while. Han Miao Shuang walked over and held her hand, pulling her back. Sima Yue nodded and went to rest in their tent. They were right. It was useless for her to just stand there. She could only wait for the results. She washed up in the tent, and when she went out, she swept away her previous depression and found Tao Yixian, saying, I'll help you take back the position of young master, but you have to help me do something. If you agree, I can stop your body from shrinking. Really? Tao Yixian felt that the depressed her from before was too much of an eyesore. She looked better like this. I never say things that I'm not sure of. Sima Yue said. What do you want me to do? Although Tao Yixian was very moved, he still had to ask for the conditions. Help me find the whereabouts of 2 people. Just find people? Tao Yixian felt that her conditions were too simple. It was hard to believe. Sima Yue nodded. It's a little difficult to find 2 people on the entire island. But I think that with the Tao family strength, it shouldn't be a problem, right? The Tao family was the largest family in Vermilion Bird City. They were ranked near the top in the small booklet that Helmsman Tua had given her. Then you're saying that you know about the Tao family. Then do you know the situation I'm facing? Do you know how difficult it is to help me take back the position of young master? Tao Yixian asked. Of course I do. Then you're helping me do such a difficult thing and you only want me to find 2 people for you? Chapter 16:12. Sima Yue looked straight at Tao Yixian and said, To you, finding someone is a simple matter, but to me this is very important. As for your matter, although it is difficult for me, it is not impossible. Tao Yixian's body shook. This was the first time he had seen such a confident woman. That kind of confidence was like an ice blade stabbing into his frozen world. It seemed that something was different. All right. I promise you. He nodded. You help me regain the position of young master, and I'll help you find the person. At the same time, I can also promise you another condition. Seeing that Sima Yue was about to say something, he waved his hand and said, I don't like to owe people anything, so I'll agree to your other request. Of course, that's only if it's within my capabilities. Okay. Sima Yue did not refuse, but the way she looked at him changed. Such a person could still be considered righteous. Now you can tell me about your situation. I want to know everything big and small so that I can think of a way. I think you guys still don't know who's behind this, right? Sima Yue said. Yes and no. Tao Yixian said. I know who poisoned me but I don't know who's behind it. Tao Xian said. What? In this kind of family it was generally obvious who was who, right? Because that person is my foster father. When Tao Xian mentioned his foster father, his voice trembled slightly. Adoptive father? Sima Yue recalled that they used to call him a bastard. Yes. Back then, my father was being hunted down and was poisoned when he was escaping. He met my mother and the two of them had a relationship. That was how I was born. But my mother didn't know and she didn't do it willingly, so she took the jade pendant from his waist and left. At that time, my father already had a wife, and his mind was not very clear at that time, so when he woke up, he did not take this matter to heart. So, he was simply an illegitimate child. Then how did you return to your family? Sima Yue asked. My mother passed away a few years after giving birth to me. Before she died, she handed me over to a good friend of hers and had him raise me. She also told him about my identity. My mother didn't know my father's identity before, but when she found out later, she didn't bring me back. My adoptive father knew my identity, and at my mother's request, he didn't bring me back unless there was nowhere else to go. So, I didn't know my identity until I was in my 20s. However, when I was 25 years old, the Tao family found me and said that they would bring me back to acknowledge my ancestors. Later on, I found out that my father's son had died. He heard that someone had used the jade pendant to inquire about the matter. He remembered that romantic night, so he sent someone to look for me. He knew that I was extremely talented, and his position as the young master was somewhat shaken at that time, so being childless was a huge point of attack. So you went back, Sima Yue said firmly. Yes. Although he didn't raise me, he was still my father. Because of some reasons, I was his only son, so he couldn't bear to see others attack him because he didn't have a son. Tao Xian said, also my adoptive father said that he would go back with me. At that time, I also thought that as long as I was with my adoptive father, it didn't matter where I was. I just didn't think that. You didn't think that your adoptive father would do something to you, right? Sima Yue asked. How did you know? Because when you talked about your adoptive father, your voice was very complicated. Also, you're so smart. No matter who tried to harm you, you should be able to guess who it was. Since you couldn't guess, then it must be someone you didn't expect. Sima Yue said, you returned to your family as an illegitimate child and obstructed the interests of others. You must have been in a very difficult situation at the time. Your adoptive father had been with you for so long that you were caught off guard. Am I right? Tao Xian lowered his eyes and didn't deny her guess. Sima Yue felt some sympathy for him. No wonder when he talked about the past, his grief was greater than his anger. No one would be able to accept being betrayed by such a close relative. Your adoptive father didn't contact anyone? If he did, I would be able to guess the person behind him. However, he spent most of his time with me and had very little time for himself. That's why I can't understand why he would betray me. Tao Xian clenched his fists so tightly that his fingernails dug into his palms until they bled. Sima Yue sighed and stepped forward to hold his hands, prying his fingers apart. Since he raised you up, your life can be considered as repaying his kindness of raising you. When you meet him again, you don't have to be merciful. Just give him the cruelest revenge. Sima Yue said slowly. Tao Xian lowered his head to look at her fingers. Her white fingertips were stained with his blood and were very eye-catching. You're right. I was raised by him. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to live until now. Just treat it as repaying his kindness for raising me. He quickly collected his emotions and his voice was so calm that it was hard to hear any emotions. Sima Yue didn't try to persuade him anymore. She stood up and said, all right, let's talk about other things. What else do you want to know? The Tao family structure, how many factions they have, who are the representatives who will benefit the most from your death? I think you know what to say, right? Sima Yue said. If we're talking about who will benefit the most from my death, it should be my father. What? Sima Yue was shocked for the first time. A bitter smile appeared on Tao Xian's face. My father didn't handle something well and brought quite a bit of loss to the family, so someone asked him to step down and let me take over as the family head. You're not close to your father, are you? Sima Yue guessed. He and his wife were childhood sweethearts and had a very deep relationship. She was also the one who asked to be with him for the rest of their lives. My father felt that my existence was a stain on the oath they made back then. When he brought me back, he was already forced by the situation, so how could he be close to me? Sima Yue expressed deep sympathy for him. His life was already very difficult and he was even disliked by his father and pressured by his wife. It really was. A bit pitiful. And I understand. Now let's talk about other things. All right. Aside from the main faction, the Tao family is split into 3 other factions. Does anyone from these 3 factions support you? No. Sima Yue pursed her lips. None of the factions supported him. Just how miserable was this guy's life before this? How on earth did he survive? In your situation, if you die, everyone will benefit. If you go back like this, it'll be hard for you to take the family head's position. Sima Yue poked at Tao Yishen's weak spot. Chapter 16:13. Sima Yue felt a headache coming on. Could a person like this be able to take on such a huge responsibility? Actually, my situation isn't that bad. Tao Yishen said. What trump cards do you have? Sima Yue asked. 2 elders have hinted to me before and I have information on 2 of them. Also, the old ancestor supports me. Since you have people supporting you, why did you get yourself into this state? Sima Yue couldn't understand. The 2 elders who have expressed their goodwill to me are rather important in the clan. However, they don't have the guts or confidence to go against the others. Their thinking is that as long as I'm willing, they will follow me. However, when I don't have the power to go against the other 3 sects, they won't openly side with me. As for the 2 that I caught, I naturally hope that they're dead. Then what about your old ancestor? He's in closed-door cultivation. If it weren't for that, they wouldn't have dared to make a move against me. Tao Yishen said, by the time the old ancestor comes out, I'll already be dead. They won't receive any punishment. Then when will your old ancestor come out? The old ancestor said that he's not in closed-door cultivation this time. As long as I can go back and find him, he'll come out. That's why I'm guessing that the people in your clan will stop you from seeing the old ancestor. After I was poisoned and escaped, I sent people to find the old ancestor. Just as you said, they've sealed off the surroundings. The people I sent are all dead. As expected. Sima Yue sighed. It looks like your old ancestor is the key to this matter. As long as you can get him to come out, you'll be halfway done. Tao Yishen looked at her and reminded her, you seem to have forgotten the most important factor. If my poison can't be cured, then everything you do will be futile. As long as that poison master isn't dead, you won't die. Don't tell me you don't even know who made this poison? If that was the case, she would have to consider switching people. I do know that. He's the poison master in the clan and has a very strange temper. He's not close to any of the sections. However, he stays in the clan all day long, so it's not easy to see him. Sima Yue heaved a sigh of relief. As long as we know who it is, as long as he's still alive, I'll be able to get you the antidote. All right, let's talk about the Tao family's situation. He was just saying that she was the one who always led him astray. After figuring out the key problem, she just needed to listen to the rest of the information. However, the more she listened, the more shocked she became. Because these were almost exactly the same as what was recorded in the booklet she had read. What was Helmsman Tuo's identity? How could he get such information? Could it be? She suppressed the thoughts in her heart. Following her guess, she couldn't help but wonder what Helmsman Tuo's purpose was. She was afraid that she would come up with some horrible plan. She always believed that a stranger would not treat her well for no reason. After Tao Yishen finished speaking, he saw that Sima Yue only nodded and asked, "You don't have anything else to ask? I've already asked everything I wanted to know. What you're saying now, I won't be able to use it in a short while." Sima Yue said, "Take off your clothes." "What?" "I said take off your clothes." Sima Yue repeated. Tao Yishen grabbed the front of his clothes and looked at her warily. "What do you want to do?" Seeing him like this, Sima Yue felt like she was in a mess. It was as if she had returned to the time when she had just met Fatty Chu. That guy had also looked at her warily. However, she was still dressed as a man at that time and her reputation wasn't good. However, what was this guy trying to do now? She glared at Tao Yishen with a dark expression and said, "What are you thinking? Take off your clothes and I'll give you a needle to stop the poison from invading your organs." Cough cough. Tao Yishen knew that he had misunderstood and his face turned red. Why did she have to be so flirtatious for no reason? However, he still obediently took off his clothes. Sima Yue walked over with the needle and saw that his back was covered in red dots. She furrowed her brows. "It looks like your poison is deeper than I thought." Tao Yishen didn't say anything. He didn't know anything about poisons. He only heard her sigh behind his back before the needle pierced his body. When he saw how long the needle was, he thought that it would hurt a lot. He didn't think that it would only feel a little bloated. 2 hours later, Sima Yue put away the needle and said to him, "We have to go back as soon as possible. Your condition is worse than I thought. Even if we have to go back as soon as possible, you have to make arrangements first. It's best if you don't come with me in case I bring trouble to you," Tao Yixuan said. "Let's talk about this later. We still have a few days anyway." Little Lucky hadn't returned yet, so they couldn't leave. Sima Yue's thoughts were actually very simple. Wasn't Tao Yixuan unable to appear? Then he would just stay in the little realm. Once he was done with his business, she would let him out. However, she wouldn't say this method now. She still had to observe Tao Yixuan for a while longer. "Right, what the hell is this Tang clan?" she asked. "Ahem." Tao Yixuan raised his head. What the hell did she mean? Ahem. What I'm saying is, what's going on with the Tang clan? Sima Yue explained. The Tang clan and Gua clan are both small powers that rely on our clan. However, the Tang clan is currently hunting me down while the Gua clan is protecting me, Tao Yixuan said. Who controls Tangjia? Tao Yixuan shook his head. He really didn't know. He hadn't interacted much with powers like the Tang clan before and never thought that he would encounter a situation like this. Sima Yue understood with a single glance. Based on his usual situation, the Tao clan wouldn't let him interact too much with the powers below him. Then this Gua clan really isn't bad. She sighed. The Tang clan wasn't familiar with him and the Gua clan wasn't familiar with him either. However, they had protected him and almost lost their lives in order to protect him. You seem to be quite familiar with them. Did you know each other before? Not really. Sima Yue told him about her encounter with the Gua clan. Then you're not bad either. Tao Yixuan smiled. I've always been pretty good. Sima Yue praised herself without blushing at all. Tao Yixuan couldn't tell that she was such a narcissistic person. Right, you said you wanted me to help you find someone? Who are you looking for? What are his characteristics? Where was he before he disappeared? It's too early to tell you this now. Wait until you've reclaimed the position of young master. Sima Yue said in a low voice. What? Do you think that it's pointless to tell me before I have the strength? Tao Yixuan asked in return. Sima Yue fell silent. That was indeed what she was thinking. The less people who knew about her master and the others, the less danger they would be in. If Tao Yixuan didn't handle this matter well, he might leak the information later on and bring danger to her master and the others. Chapter 16-14. When Tao Yixuan saw her like this, he knew he had guessed correctly. However, before he could say anything, Sima Yue said, "If you want to know about other people's affairs, you must have the ability to do so. Otherwise, you will give others hope in vain only to disappoint them in the end." With that, she got up and left. Tao Yixuan looked at her back and fell into deep thought. After Sima Yue left the tent, she saw Guinda interrogating the members of the Tang family. Hearing their voices, Tao Yixuan also walked out. Guinda saw Tao Yixuan come out and bowed to him, saying, "Young master, I didn't think that Tang Fei would be such a tough nut to crack. We've asked him for so long and still haven't gotten any answers. I think it's probably because he's under a lot of pressure from the top, so he doesn't dare to say what he knows. Doing these things behind the family's back is either for money or money. However, if it was such a simple goal, you should have gotten the answer you wanted." Sima Yue looked at Tang Fei, who was lying on the ground. He was already breathing out more than he was breathing in. "You're saying there's another reason?" "Of course." Sima Yue said, "If it were you, would you keep a secret for that person if it wasn't for the threat to your life?" "No." Guinda shook his head. "I'll find a chance to commit suicide." Sima Yue felt that they were not on the same level. He was an honest man, wasn't he? That person must have tied a knot in her head. That's why she's still clenching her teeth and refusing to say anything. In any case, he's going to die whether he tells us or not. If we protect the people behind him, we'll naturally be able to protect his family as well. Tao Yixuan said. Sima Yue gave him a "you're pretty smart" look. Then what should we do? Guixian had been interrogating Tang Fei for the past 2 days. No matter what he did, Tang Fei just clenched his teeth and refused to speak. It was about to obliterate his confidence. Tao Yixuan walked over and squatted next to Tang Fei to examine him, saying, "He's not poisoned. It looks like he wasn't controlled by poison. Then the most likely possibility is, a seal was placed in his consciousness. If he dares to speak about that person, his body will explode and he will die. Doesn't that mean we won't be able to get any results?" Guinda said. Tao Yixuan was also a little disappointed. If he could ask Tang Fei about the person behind this, he would at least be able to get some clues. but in this way he had no clues at all. Haha. At this moment, Tang Fei laughed. He laughed very proudly. You're right. The higher-ups did place a seal in my sea of consciousness. As long as I feel even the slightest bit about myself, I won't be able to survive. Don't even think about getting any information. Ah. You still want to take advantage of me? Guoxian kicked him twice. Don't you want to die? I'll fulfill your wish. With that, he condensed his spiritual energy and attacked the heavenly gate. Wait. Sima Yue, who had been silent all this time, called out to him. Guoxian's hand froze in midair in shock. Yue, what's wrong? You wouldn't be pleading for mercy for a dead person, right? Guoxian looked at her disapprovingly. I don't have any relationship with him. Why would I plead for mercy? Sima Yue shrugged as she said. Then why are you stopping me? I want to tell you that even if you want to kill him, don't hit his head. Just hit his heart. If you break his head, he'll have nothing left. Ichem? What was the difference between hitting the head and the heart? However, since she was the one who asked for it, he might as well give her some face. He used his spiritual energy to form a long sword and pierced it towards Tang Fei's heart. Before Tang Fei died, he glanced at Sima Yue. He didn't know why, but this woman gave him a very dangerous feeling. Especially that slight smile on her lips. Even if he died, he wouldn't be able to die in peace. Yue, what are you keeping his head for? Guiyinda felt that Sima Yue wasn't someone who liked to play around. He definitely had his reasons for saying this. Sima Yue didn't answer him. She walked over and grabbed Tang Fei's body, sending her divine sense into his consciousness. His past flashed before her eyes like a movie. Once she got what she wanted to know, she threw the body to the ground. Then she conjured a flame and burned her hand for a while. Then she threw the flame onto the body, burning it to nothing. What are you doing? Didn't you see? Sima Yue said, although he's been sealed and can't say anything, he still has his memories. Since he's dead, the seal is naturally gone as well. Brain death is slower than physical death, so I took this opportunity to send my divine sense into his consciousness and find out what happened when he was alive. Why are you all looking at me like that? Ahem, how did you come up with this idea? Tao Yixian asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Speaking from experience. Sima Yue didn't want to say too much. Do you know someone called Tao Xianji? Is this person the one who ordered him? No. It's someone who went to the Tang clan a while ago. The person who ordered him was completely hidden in a black cloak and even changed his voice. That's why he doesn't know who it is. However, he guesses that it should be Tao Xianji. Sima Yue explained. Tao Xianji is father's man. Tao Yixian's voice was bitter. He was probably feeling even worse. Sima Yue gave him a "you're so pitiful" look. If this guess was true, then wouldn't it mean that the person who killed him was his father? This is just a guess. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Guiyinda didn't want to see him so disappointed and comforted him. I hope so. Although Tao Yixian said that, he didn't believe it in his heart. How could there be so many coincidences? Guiyinda turned his pleading gaze to Sima Yue. Sima Yue pursed her lips but didn't say anything. She only wanted to help him return to the clan. She didn't want to be some kind of caring older sister. After a while, Tao Yixian finally regained his composure and said to Sima Yue, I'll have to trouble you with the others as well. Sima Yue wanted to say that there was no need. Those people didn't know what was going on at all. However, she swallowed her words back down. This guy looked so pitiful. It was better to find something for him to do. She wasn't the one who killed him anyway. She was just putting on an act. She could also see if there was any useful information in those people's minds. However, even after killing everyone, she didn't get any useful information. It looked like the people Tang Fei had brought with him weren't important people. Or rather, there weren't many people who knew about the assassination attempt on Tao Yixian. This might even be an opportunity for him to return to the clan. If the entire clan did it with great fanfare, it would mean that he had been completely abandoned by the clan. From the looks of it now, his situation wasn't completely hopeless. Chapter 16-15. After that, Tao Yixian called Guiyinda and Guoxian to his tent and told them about his deal with Sima Yue. Young master, are you really going to place your hopes in the hands of a little girl you just met? Guoxian furrowed his brows, feeling that this method was inappropriate. Sima Yue wasn't even as powerful as him. Could she let young master return to the clan? Do you have a better idea? Tao Yixian asked. You really didn't? Don't think that Sima Yue is unreliable just because she's young. The way I see it, she's more reliable than the others. Tao Yishen said. Young master, you trust her that much? Yes, she's not very powerful. There are many people on this island who can crush her. However, when it comes to power, it's not just her cultivation. She has many helpers by her side. She'll definitely be able to surprise us. Tao Yishen said confidently. At the very least, they didn't have enough face to get this old monster of Rabbit Ear Mountain to let them go. They didn't have any ancient spirit beasts by their side to protect her either. If my guess isn't wrong, the person who brought them in back then was none other than our island master who's always idling around. Tao Yishen guessed. It was the island master? On this island, was there anyone who could steal the helmsman's boat without anyone noticing? He asked. No. Although the helmsman was fat and had big ears, his power was real. Trying to steal his boat, wasn't that just asking for death? However, he has a good relationship with the island master and they often drink together. I'm guessing that he must have gotten the helmsman drunk before he seized his boat and went out for a spin. Tao Yishen said, furthermore, isn't our island master's name Xiao Gong? Helmsman Tua Xiao Gong. These two names sound similar. However, isn't the island master called Tua Hongyu? Guaxian said. That's the name he often uses. When he used to hide his identity and come out to play, he used the name Xiao Gong. That's why many people know his name. Tao Yishen explained. If it was someone from the island, they would have guessed his identity long ago. However, outsiders don't know that he has the name Xiao Gong. That's true. Guiyin said, we all thought that it was a boatman with the surname Yun, but we didn't expect that it was young master who brought them here. This isn't about whether or not they're going to bring her over. It's just that the island master is clearly interested in them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stepped forward to protect her. This was the real reason why Tao Yishen was willing to cooperate with Sima Yue. Since the island master had taken a fancy to her, he would definitely not let her be in danger and not care about her. This way, even if he didn't survive, the Guo family would have a hard time in the future. Perhaps he really could cure the poison. She was so confident that even he believed her. While they were talking about Sima Yue was also talking about Tao Yishen. Junior sister, are you really willing to make a deal with this little guy? Han Miao Shuang felt that the child looked too young and had no background. It would be easy for the family to kill him. Since I was the one who saved him, I think that he should be the opportunity that Yin Lin was talking about. As long as we help him return to the family and do a good job as the young master, then he'll be the master and teacher good that we're looking for. Sima Yue said. But the situation he's facing is so serious. Won't our relationship with him waste a lot of time? It won't. If Yin Lin said that the opportunity is here, then it won't be wrong. Sima Yue said confidently, also, I trust him. You trust him? He's able to make himself so miserable, which means that he doesn't have much power in the family. Even if he returns and becomes the patriarch, he probably won't have any real power. Han Miao Shuang analyzed. To be able to grow to his height in this kind of environment, it means that he has some brains and methods. This time he was only harmed by his adoptive father. Otherwise, he wouldn't have ended up in such a state. If it were us, we might not be able to live until today. Sima Yue said, this kind of person, as long as he has the chance and time, he'll definitely be able to control the entire family. But what we lack now is time. Han Miao Shuang muttered softly. Don't worry, he won't disappoint us. Han Miao Shuang nodded. Sometimes she would feel strange. Why did little junior sister always give people the power to believe her? It was as if everything that happened to her wasn't a problem at all. If the same thing was said by someone else, she might not believe it. But when it came from her, she felt that it was definitely true. What do you plan to do next? Sima Xiuqi asked. His granddaughter was too opinionated. She made these old bones useless. Sai, why weren't the others in the family like her? If this was the case, even without the things she brought back, the family would be able to rise quickly. It's actually very simple. Although there are people chasing after him, as long as he doesn't appear, we won't be in too much danger. Sima Yue said, it won't be too late for him to come out after we've settled things in Phoenix City. That's true. We didn't know the Guo family before. They won't think that we're in contact with him. Feng Zhixing said, are you planning to put him in the little realm? Wouldn't that be too dangerous? If he knows about the little realm, what if he has evil thoughts? Su Xiaoxiao was worried. If he sees the people inside, he won't dare to have those thoughts. But Aunt Xiang and the others are enough to kill him. If we compare the power behind them, would the Tao family dare to compare with the Feng people? Sima Yue wasn't worried at all. If that was really the case, so what if they destroyed them? However, if we want to get in touch with the Tao family, we need a plan. We can't just act according to the situation. Sima Lu Xian said. I've already thought about it. Sima Yue said, when the time comes, we'll do this. After listening to Sima Yue's plan, the others looked at her disapprovingly. Although the beauty trap is good, that person is so powerful. If you don't have time to open the little realm, what if you're in danger? Wang Yingying disagreed. Her precious granddaughter, even if those scum touched her, she couldn't let them. If you don't go to the little realm, go to the spirit pagoda. That way I can come out with just a thought. Sima Yue said. Although she didn't want to agree, it seemed like there was no better way to enter the Tao family. No matter who they were trying to get close to, it was impossible for them to be invited as guests so quickly. So, there was nothing faster and more convenient than being forcefully taken to the Tao family. A few days later, the woman sent Xiaoxi back. This made Sima Yue's heart, which had been hanging in the air for the past few days, finally settle down. What she didn't expect was that Xiaoxi was reluctant to part with the female lead. He told her to come and see him in the future as she left. It seemed like he was doing well these few days. She had been worried for nothing. Chapter 16:16. Sima Yue lifted it by its tail and turned it upside down, making eye contact with it. If you're so reluctant, why don't you continue to stay here? We'll leave first. She snorted. Little Lucky immediately put away the reluctance in his eyes and put on a fawning expression. He beamed and said, Yu, what are you saying? Of course I'll follow you. I'm the one who can't bear to part with you. Fortunately, after such a long time, he finally stopped calling her mother. Sima Yue could not help but facepalm when she saw how obedient it was. How big was Little Roar's influence? Why were they all affected by it? Seeing that she didn't say anything, Little Lucky wagged his tail and hugged her hand. He rubbed himself against her hand and stared at her with his big eyes. Sima Yue gritted her teeth and spat out, It's shameful to act cute. Hee. Little she didn't care if it was shameful or not. As long as Yu wasn't angry, it was better than anything else. Sima Yue was not really angry in the first place. Seeing him like this, she stretched out her hand and poked his forehead, saying, In the future, don't learn these crooked ways from Little Roar. That's right, wasn't this move taught by Little Roar? Actually, what she didn't know was that Little Roar would teach this move to every new member. In his words, it was, Yu, this woman, when she gets angry, she's very scary. But as long as you learn this move, you'll succeed every time. Who told her to be a little girl? If she knew about this, she would definitely stuff it into a crack in the ground and find something to suppress it for 100 years before letting it out. Hee. It was rare to see Sima Yue acting like a little girl. Everyone smiled knowingly. Cough, cough. Sima Yue reacted and threw Little Lucky onto her shoulders. She said to everyone, Now that Little Lucky is back, let's leave this place. At this time, Guinda walked out and cupped his hands towards them, saying, Miss Yue, we are very grateful that you are willing to help young master. We are also very willing to work hard for you. But we can't go back yet. Look, can you guys leave first? We'll look for you later. Is there anything else? Guinda smiled wryly and said, To tell you the truth, we came here this time to find 2,000-year-old medicinal ingredients. What medicinal herbs are you looking for? He didn't say anything specific. He only said that we have to hand over 2 types of medicinal herbs that are over 1,000 years old. Only then did we have the courage to enter this deep mountain. Guinda said. Sima Yue turned her head to look at Tao Yixian. He nodded. This was indeed the tax this year. If we don't hand it in, then I'm afraid our Gua clan will. So no matter what, we have to find 2 ingredients this time. Guinda said. You guys haven't found it yet, right? Sima Yue said. She knew that she had guessed correctly when she saw the Gua family's reaction. However, she couldn't leave them here, because she needed the Gua family to complete the rest of the plan. Should she give them 2 herbs that were more than 1,000 years old? Just say that he picked it up on the road? However, these people were also experts. If it was just unearthed, they would definitely be able to tell. Just as she was in a dilemma, Little Lucky reached his hand under his belly. Before Sima Yue could see where he was reaching, he pulled out 2 medicinal herbs and threw them towards Guinda, 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs. The Gua family recognized them at a glance. Little Lucky, where did you get these? Sima Yue asked. I got them from Andy's place. She has a lot of these around her cave, so I pulled out a few to play with. Little Lucky replied, then said to Guinda and the others, I'll give these 2 to you guys. Hurry up and come with us. Thank you. The Guo family members cupped their hands in gratitude. If they stayed in the mountain to continue searching, who knows when they would meet with danger. Since the problem has been solved, then let's leave the mountain, Sima Yue said. Let's go. Tao Yishen spoke up as well. We'll just leave. If you follow us down the mountain, wouldn't that be telling everyone that we have something to do with you? Sima Yue said. But it's not good to let young master stay in the mountains alone, right? Guoyin De said with some difficulty. Sima Yue took out a little door and opened up her little realm, saying, although my little realm is small, you can still live in it for a while. Once I've settled things, I'll let you out. Little realms weren't rare on this island, so they weren't too surprised. At most, they didn't think that someone like her would have such a thing. Tao Yishen understood what she was thinking and nodded, entering the little realm alone. He had thought that it was really a small little realm like Sima Yue had said, but he didn't think that what he saw after entering was a vast and boundless world. Furthermore, there was actually a city in this little realm. He was a little shocked. At this moment, someone came over and bowed to him, saying that he was the temporary manager of Blood Fiend City and had received orders from Sima Yue to take care of him during this period of time. Blood Fiend City? That's right, this is Blood Fiend City. The manager brought him into the city, and because there weren't any inns here, he brought him to his own courtyard. As he walked, he explained the situation here to him. You're saying that the people here used to be from Blood Fiend City? Tao Yishen asked in shock. Back then, news of what happened in Blood Fiend City had spread to the island. After all, she was such a special existence. For her to disappear just like that was quite shocking. He didn't think that she was the one who did that and even brought the people from Blood Fiend City here. The manager saw that he was interested and told him about what happened in Blood Fiend City back then with Sima Yue. The manager's eloquence wasn't bad and he described what happened back then vividly. Tao Yishen could almost feel the dangerous situation back then and the majestic scene after Sima Yue had summoned the lightning tribulation. Other than that, what surprised him was that Sima Yue was actually able to attract the heavenly tribulation. If she attracted the heavenly tribulation while fighting with someone, wouldn't that mean that the other party would have to go through the tribulation as well? Thus, the manager told him about what happened in the dark forest, and the shock in Tao Yishen's heart grew even stronger. She was actually able to kill hundreds of monarch-leveled cultivators as a divine-leveled cultivator. This wasn't a simple feat of winning against a large number of opponents or fighting against those of a higher rank. Heh, don't look down on Lady Yue just because she's young. She's very capable. She said that she would help you take back the position of young master, so there's definitely no problem. After so many years, we've never seen anything that she couldn't do. The manager said with a chuckle. It's also because she's kind-hearted that she allowed us to stay here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the peaceful days we have now. When they arrived at the manager's courtyard, the manager pointed to the courtyard to the side and said, if you don't have anything to do, don't go to the side, alright? It won't be good if you disturb the people inside. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.